There are a lot of mysteries in life. Who ate all my snacks? Why are women not impressed by my juggling? And what's a unique ancestry that I can bring to my next TTRPG game night? The answer to those questions are, I ate my snacks. They are impressed, but you should have a wide variety of hobbies and interests. And you can find unique ancestries with Battlezoo and their Year of Mysteries. Every month in 2026, Battlezoo delivers a fresh, bizarre, and lovingly unhinged ancestry straight to your inbox. Get ready to spice up your D&D or Pathfinder game faster than a wizard's bad life choices. Why settle for elves again when you can play as 13 unique and bizarre ancestries, such as a grumpy Sasquatch, a sea serpent with anger issues, or a dinosaur person, a guy ceratops, a girlociraptor, a human saurus rex. You don't have to use any of these names, but you do get to play as a dinosaur with a great sword, and that seems awesome.
But Jack, this is the Year of Mysteries, so let's get mysterious. With each new ancestry, every month you'll also find a puzzle. Solve each and input the solution at battlezoo.com to slowly reveal the year-long secret and become a seeker of mysteries. There's a leaderboard for puzzle solvers, and if you solve all 12, you'll earn a free prize as you unlock the final truth, as well as one last secret you can add to your games. What could it be? The color of my underpants?
Mine have pictures of fish on them. Head on over to yearofmysteries.com and start uncovering the clues today. I can juggle for a long time.
It's time for Roll for Combat.
Hello, everyone. I'm back. I'm back from wherever I was. I listened to that show.
Zone?
Yes, I listened to that show last week from the Phantom Zone. Damn, that was a good show. Derik and Esper were really getting into it.
You
Mark
said
was.
that, and I didn't really actually know what you were talking about.
This was good, man. Well, because Esper was really challenging you guys, and
Yeah, he had a lot of questions. He actually did the last time he was on too, and he was like sad that he couldn't keep asking more and picking our brains when he was on with you and me, Steven. He's a very good guest because he always has something to say, and it's often like a thought-provoking question, as opposed to, like, we also have some other guests who can just, BS with us on whatever random side topic. And that's great too, but it's different,
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always surprising, but in this case, surprising and pleasantly so, when I meet someone and they've been in the hobby for a long time, and they're like, "Oh wow, no, I've basically played D&D, my whole life. Like I've never played any of these games like that Mark and Derik are talking about." And then their response instead is, "Tell me more. I'm curious. I'd like to learn," instead of just being like, which is usually what most people do.
I mean, he said several times he wants you to run him through something. Those kind of things never actually materialize just because of people's scheduling conflicts, or at least rarely do. But he seemed genuinely to want to give it a go and learn more.
Yeah, which is great. Curiosity, I approve.
so I have a few interesting things. First of all, I'm going to do another video on this, but Critical Role released their very first new video game out today called Dispatch. And oh my God, this game, and if I can give a thing 11 out of 10, this game, I mean, it's kind of a weird game because it's basically an interactive cartoon where you, it's a cartoon and it's, but it just, the voice acting is amazing. The music is amazing. I do like,
You've so far sold me on nothing that makes it a good game.
Okay, Derik.
Wait.
Steven told me that I needed to play the demo of this game, and contrary to what everyone who watches this show usually thinks, where Steven tells me I have to watch some 80s movie and then I never watch it, I did play the demo of the game. Now, Steven promised it would take under a certain amount of time, and it took like over twice that much time. But
I think
that's okay.
I think it's take 10 minutes. It took like 20 minutes.
It was like pretty fun. Basically, the main gameplay is that crises are happening all around town almost faster than you can deal with them, that require a certain skill set to handle them well. Mm-hmm. And you need to put these band of anti-heroes who are basically like nearly supervillains, but they didn't want a
They're
criminal rep, so they
reformed.
are kind of working to do community service
Yes.
to try to fix these problems without causing more problems, with humorous dialogue depending on who you send where. I think I accidentally sent a pyromaniac to a place where he may have started a fire to cause another problem. They're constantly making fun of the main character, who is you, while you're doing this. And then it goes from that main gameplay loop into these like side story, almost like it's a movie, except for that it's going in real time and you have to answer with like a short timer what your character is going to say next in the dialogue.
Yeah. It's basically Telltale. If you've played any of the Telltale games, it's the same. It's the same model. But what makes this one better is it's instead of a 3D engine, it's a cartoon. So it looks incredible. Like the art style is A++. Like I love the art style. The voice acting is A++. I mean, it's the voice acting is so.
And what would you expect from a partnership with Critical Role?
Well,
like,
the problem with a lot of these games in the
you would
Telltale
expect
games,
good voice acting, right?
Derik hates voice acting.
Yeah, well, this is. You know what, Derik? Actually, I agree.
Wait,
with
Derik,
you.
do you hate the concept that there is voice acting in the
Yes.
game? You just want to read text boxes?
Well, this is a cartoon. This is why it's different. I'd say there's the problem because 98% of these games, the actors actually have to work off each other, and you feel it's very awkward. It doesn't feel like they're really working off each other. But when they hit it, and they really hit it, it sounds perfect. And I can do a very small number of these games that hit it, and this is one of them. I'm
kind of surprised. I want to hear more
good.
why Derik doesn't like any voice acting, because I don't think I've met someone before who I know
someone,
people don't
I
like
want to answer a
bad or
question.
cringy voice
Someone
acting.
says, "Is it a cartoon for children?" No, it's like heavy R, X-rated. It is a cartoon, but it is like
well, the demo was not close to X-rated. It was definitely R, because they would be
X.
insulting
It's
you.
heavy R, not X, but heavy R-rated. Gore, blood, cursing left and right, adult themes. It's much closer to the Cyberpunk video, cartoon. If you saw that on Netflix, it's also a lot closer to The Boys. It's very similar to The Boys in terms of tone and style. So if you watch The Boys, you'll like this. What's fascinating about it is the new style of play, and because it's Critical Role and they have all the Critical Role, a lot of Critical Role actors, and Matt Mercer's the producer on this, they already announced that they're going to be doing Critical Role games using this engine and technology. So this is actually the first of upcoming games, and I'm seeing this and I'm realizing, first, it's fantastic. I love it. Second, it's very easy for anyone to get into, whether you play video games or not, which is probably the secret sauce. And they combine this with Vox Machina and the cartoons. This thing is going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm like sitting here like, oh my God, they are going to make so much money off of this. It's kind of disgusting. Kudos to them.
Why is it disgusting?
Because it's not disgusting, but they broke the mold. They actually figured something out that no one has figured out for a very long time.
And that's ingenious, I think.
Oh, I'm going to do a video on this. And
But
give
like,
it
didn't they make
super glowing.
way more money off of Vox Machina, the Amazon show, than they ever did off of,
they made way more. But this is going to break that. That's going to blow that away. Like this is because they own they're part owners of the studio. So they're going to make a fortune on this. It's really
good for them.
impressive.
They clearly need more money, and I think they deserve it.
So it's it's good. It's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. I also like those games where you are back, you're sitting and dispatching. Like I call them indirect control games. Like there's actually a couple that just came out like this, where one of them is called Majesty. Where
Majesty is the one I was going to talk about, the classic one.
Yes,
that's like from a long time ago.
Yes, and there's
where you had to offer bounties to get people to do things and understand like what your NPCs were motivated by. Like the thieves, if you put money on it, they would do it.
Right. Lysaria just came out on Monday, and Lysaria is, if you're interested, Mark, is a spiritual successor to Majesty. It just came out. It's getting really good reviews, and it's like $20.
You said Lysaria?
Lysaria. That's right.
Oh, Letsaria, like
Letsaria.
Less. Yeah, it says it's inspired by Majesty, so I see it here.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'd give that.
It is mostly positive on Steam.
Cheap. Yeah, but I like those type of games. I like the games where you sit back and indirectly control what's going on, and that's what this one does. This is not too stressful. It's fun. The story was really good. The acting's really good. The world's really good. I mean, I don't know. It's just like maybe I'm getting old and I just like these relaxing video games, but I liked it a lot. Anyhow, there's that. And then I'm going to talk about something really weird, Derik, that I was talking to Mark about. So, although we write books and we have a lot of testers, here's a strange thing. I actually don't get to play my own products or I don't have time. And I really just have to go by instinct, Mark, and play testing to figure out if we have good products or not. I know that sounds kind of strange because you would think everyone would always want to play their stuff. So right now we are playing through Jewel of the Indigo Isle that I'm DMing with my players. And these guys are super hardcore, been playing for 50 years and have seen and done it all.
They seem hard to please because of all that they've done in general.
They're very hard to please. And we are playing an Eldamon trainer, an Eldamon avatar, a fighter, and a dragon priest. And not only are these guys having the best times of their lives in this adventure, but I am freaking loving Eldamon. It is so much ridiculous fun to play with, even me as the GM, playing with the Eldamon, because you never know what's going to appear. And then when they appear, even the other players...
I don't praise things willy-nilly.
I know, but I'm like,
especially things that are
stunned
cute.
how
It's
good
rare
my
for
own
Derek to
product
praise
is.
Right. I mean, what is my pitch when we're at conventions? I go, I hate cute things. And I said, and I don't like Pokemon. I go, but I fully endorse this product because it's so good.
It is so good. Well, because they were summoning new Eldamon and everyone's like, what does it do? What does it do? And they're so excited. And even I'm excited because you get to see. I was like, wow, it's like a wizard on steroids.
Now you know what it feels like for me when I'm doing the play testing of it.
Yeah.
Like both of my last two characters have been from the Eldamon book.
Well, now I'm even more excited to add more new Eldamon to the world.
There you go.
With Eldamon Legends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to have more options.
Well,
including
the
legendary Eldamon that are unique. You got to go on a quest, find them.
I mean, I wasn't too worried about the adventure because I wasn't too worried, but it's really flowing quick. Like these guys love it because it's going very fast and they're going from location to location. And
I was surprised actually by how smooth it ran compared to even other ones that I ran that I had a good time with. Really it just goes pretty smooth and they made it through what felt like more things more quickly.
Yeah. Well, not to spoil it, but this is actually a Brandon Sanderson thing that we did, is that a lot of other authors will have like the MacGuffin, and the MacGuffin takes like 3 books to get. But Brandon Sanderson does this thing where he'll give you the MacGuffin in the first book. And then you're like, what? And then it's like, oh yeah, but here's 10 more MacGuffins you need. So it's like, so you're getting so much reward so quickly that you're always have something more to do. And in this book, it is going fast because I'm not giving it away, but like you start off looking for a map, and right from the beginning, they're getting heavy leads and really moving fast on getting this map. And I will tell you, you get it pretty quick. It's not like you have to wait 50 sessions before it shows up. And they like that. They're like, wow, we're like actually making progress on stuff. And I'm like, yeah, nice, huh? Instead of you like spending 3 levels trying to find out where the bad guy's lair is, and then you finally go after the 3 henchmen to finally get to the bad guy when you're level 10. It's like, nah, here you get it like all, you can do it all like on first level, and then we give you more things, and then when you get to the next level, so it's really fast.
Well, cool.
Anyhow, how long till D&D Eldamon is on D&D Beyond? Hopefully semi soon. I mean, I'm talking to them. Well, you just got to get into their queue. And good news is the guy who runs D&D Beyond is a huge Pathfinder fan. And he knew who we were before I knew who he was, which was kind of stunning. I was actually, first time Derik, you would have been, you should have been there. I was at a loss for words when he met us at Gamma. I was like, what? I was like, you know more about us than I know about you. And it was kind of stunning. I was like, wow.
Yeah, he has our books.
Yeah. No, he knows it really well. And he's little kids. And
This is the kind of thing that when Steven talks about it, and I've said this before, but I went to Gamma. I usually thought Steven was like maybe exaggerating about some of the things, but it was mostly accurate. But it was just completely accurate, his assessment of this. Yeah. I saw it in person. I can confirm it.
Oh, I have learned through hard-won experience not to doubt the word of the master.
Hey, man.
I've seen things. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe, right? Sea beams glittering in the dark, attack ships on fire off the arm of Orion at the Tannhauser Gate or whatever. I've seen things. Yeah.
Well, wait until PAX Unplugged. You haven't seen anything yet. PAX Unplugged is like a New York version of Gen Con.
I don't know what that means.
How is it a New York?
Wait, is everybody?
When it's in
so everyone's rude and an asshole? Like
yes.
What's okay?
Yes. No, it's
New York is not as rude as like the stereotype of it was. There was actually a study where people pretended to be like tourists who were slightly in distress or something like that in different cities across the world. And New York was actually one of the ones that were most likely for people to be friendly, nice, and try to help them out of other, totally even though it has the stereotype as being like rude and standoffish.
The way I've always heard it described is that like if like let's say you're carrying something and you spill it in LA they'll be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I hope this doesn't mess up your day, and I'm really sorry, and then they're like, but I gotta go by, and then they'll just leave you there. And in New York they'll be like, look at this fucking asshole dropping his shit all over the street, all right, let me help you out, buddy, like
that's about right. Yeah, you're like, oh man, look at the mess you made. Oh, you ruined that poor person's outfit. All right, I'll help you.
Yeah, right, exactly. So like that's the way I've always heard it. Yeah,
pretty much. Well, no, because you know how like at night there's like 50 parties going on and everyone goes all over the place. At Gen Con at PAX Unplugged, there's only one bar and one hotel that everyone hangs out at. So that is the place. How does
that even work? That sounds like a choke point given how many people go.
Well, it becomes a black hole.
Oh, it's a black hole. It is wall to wall people, but everyone is there. It's actually kind of horrible, but at the same time,
I'll be asleep.
No, you won't. You're going. You're going.
I'll be tired.
It's actually it's you know what? It's not as bad because first it's only 3 days.
No, that's true. That is a big difference.
It's not as bad. It's the difference between 3 days and 4 days is a world of difference. Because
also, I'm sure the square footage is much lower than Gen Con. There's a lot of schlepping.
3 versus 4 days plus for me and Steven, at least how close it is, right? Sure. Being able to just take the train, like very short train ride instead of having to take a plane or drive really, really far where you have to like get to the airport super in advance it makes the travel day feel less like the entire day is sucked up into it.
Yeah. So anyhow, Paris is the rudest city in the world. Oh yeah, by far. I've been to, oh my God, so rude. Ridiculous. I was stunned how rude Paris was. Anyhow, it's the other thing is the food options in Philly is the polar opposite of the food options in Indy. The food options in Indy is fine, but man, the food options in Philly, it's like everything is 10 out of 10. Like there's so much good food in Philly. It's actually kind of heartbreaking how much good food there is in Philly. It's you eat really, really, really well there. Which is great.
Heartbreaking in the sense of your heart literally stops because your arteries are filled up with the things that you ate from Philly?
Yes, it's that. It's heartbreaking. It's more like heart clogging is what I meant to say. Oh, sorry, we're keeping Derik up because he was doing his late night stream.
Oh no, I woke up like at noon.
So he's just barely woken up. He got in the shower, got ready for the stream.
All right, so we can finally get to why this came up. So a couple of interesting things. So basically, this image that I used on the thumbnail is an image that was shared like on D&D Twitter or D&D X, whatever the hell you want to call it now. And there was some explosion on the D&D subreddit that they hated this image and they hated everything it represented and all that stuff. Up Dungeon Craft. What does Professor have to say?
He said, "Oh boy, this thing."
Oh boy, this thing. Yeah, here we go. So he knows what I'm talking about. It's that it's a picture. It's very watercolor-esque where it has. How would you describe this picture?
It's like a friendly, smiling
haven't seen the
beholder
picture.
with a heart in its eyes and cute kobolds, and everybody's like kind of happy. It's kind of like got like the more cottage core.
Is this on
vibe, not a grimdark?
D&D?
Hold
What?
on, I'll send it to you, Derek.
It's like the thumbnail picture for this one.
Yeah, I don't look at your thumbnails.
It's a very
I know.
cozy
Well, I sent
core.
it to you.
I think
there.
cozy core is the word for it, rather
Okay.
than grimdark vibe. And it's no surprise that people who like grimdark styles do not like that.
So let me say like three things, okay? Number one, says the motherfuckers who have a dragon wearing a hat in the upper left of their stream overlay. Okay,
Hey, man.
so let's
Hey,
Well,
man.
start.
I mean, Derek,
let's-
I like this
We
piece of
never
art that we
said
have on
that
the
we're
thumbnail and
hardcore.
our dragon.
Is that a dinosaur?
Yes.
Dual wielding blades.
That is a Tyrannosaurus Rex that you
Okay.
can
We've
now
also got
play.
a dinosaur with like a bishop hat or something like that.
That is a Brontosaurus bishop.
Well, I'm just saying, clearly there was a decision made to move in that direction. So that's number one.
Yes. Yes.
Number two, this is not the direction of D&D. This is a piece of art. Okay? So
Yes.
Yeah.
that doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
Number three, this sort of genre of cottage core, cozy core, romantasy.
If I could bring it up.
It's a thing that people are interested in. Not everything has to be for you. I just find it crazy that people care about this. What does this have to do? Because here's the thing, even in this image, right, that beholder still, I don't know, probably disintegrates you with its eye rays. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, but it has a little heart in
I think
its eye.
it's great to have a variety of art. If every single piece of art in the entire game was this, then I think it would be shoehorning D&D into only be one thing. But having this on one hand and some of the other great art we've seen in the 2024 books of like really badass looking PCs or like an epic looking fight and dangerous monsters, I think it's good to have a variety, especially since, as I've talked about before on this show, D&D's strength and sometimes its weakness is that it tries to be this giant big tent that can envelop all sorts of players. And if you don't have some pictures that are on the different edges of it, you're not going to be able to show that as much. But of course, people who are on the opposite edge are not going to like it when you do, because a lot of people think things are a zero-sum game, and that by including the thing they don't like, that it's minimizing or removing the thing that they do.
Okay, but like, for all the people here who are, whatever, like going like, oh, D&D's not hardcore enough. Okay. When's the last time that you rolled the daily cumulative disease chance for your characters? Okay. When, that was in first edition, right?
Oh, by the
we
way,
had a
so
very,
I just brought it up. This is the
had
image we're talking about.
we had a very elaborate system for like anytime you were exposed to pathogens or sexual encounters, you could get an STD. Anytime you went into like the swamp or somewhere hot or humid like the jungle, there was like a cumulative chance each day that you were going to get some horrible wasting disease. There was a very long and lengthy table dedicated to this. Guess what? They got rid of that in the game. And I don't hear you, and so there's probably some old grog nerd who's going like, look at you pansy bitches. You can't even have a disease table like a man. And it's just such a, and this is coming from like the king of gatekeeping, but like, it's crazy to me that people don't realize that D&D changes. Oh, shocking. D&D changes. And guess what? This thing on screen, it's way more popular than Dungeons. Like way more popular. This is what people want. This is what the kids want. This is what the people want.
I don't even think that's entirely true. That the only thing that they want is this, but I do think that
it may not be the
they
only
want
thing
both.
they want.
Some
It may
people
not be
want
the
all
only
of
thing
it.
they want.
Some people want only the dungeons. Some people want only this stuff, and by including all of it, they're appealing to a wider audience. Now, it could risk, as one person said in chat, making a game that's meant to appeal to everyone, but therefore can sort of not appeal as much as it should be able to anyone. And that's something you've talked about at length before, Derik, is how a specialist RPG that you're playing particularly for something you like the most is going to do it better than D&D. And I think even people who make D&D probably agree. Like I'm one of the people who made Pathfinder, which arguably is like D&D in the sense that it is a pretty big tent and tries to do it all. I will readily and fully agree that if you want to do something that is like literally a Blades in the Dark style situation where it's a heist and it's in this dark fantasy setting where it's dark and there's not that much light, and you want to do exactly Blades in the Dark, I've seen people be like, how can we do Blades of the Dark in Pathfinder and convert it to that, or in D&D? No, Blades in the Dark does Blades in the Dark better. It does that thing better because it's not very good at doing anything else unless you create another Forged in the Dark game that does the other thing that you want to do. And that's okay. That's its strength and its weakness. So
yeah,
that's what I feel on this anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, D&D is nothing anyways. So how can you be upset by saying it's not something else? You know, like it's designed to be this anything. You know, like it's the most generic role-playing game system ever. And
what about GURPS?
Outside of GURPS.
Okay.
GURPS.
The exception that proves the rule.
Yes, outside of actually popular games.
Or GURPS.
Yeah.
Hey, man, GURPS, man. GURPS, man,
like I'll give you a great example of this, right? There's a very popular series now. I think it's a whole series. It's called Pulp Cthulhu. And in Pulp Cthulhu, your investigators get locked and loaded and go kick in the door and start blasting, yokels and, whatever. And whatever they're called. What are those monstrous things called from Cthulhu? The servants. Someone knows. You just start blasting them in the face and stuff like that. Instead of, I don't know, having you screaming and clawing at your eyes and, running away. So yeah, like it's very Army of Darkness coded instead of Evil Dead Null Zero. That's a pretty good example. But it's Cthulhu. It's Pulp Cthulhu. And I'm sure there are people, and in fact, I know some of them because, they're members of my Patreon, who are like horrified at the idea of Pulp Cthulhu because they're like, this takes everything that is Cthulhu and just shits all over it. The whole point is that you are powerless against the great cosmic entities that rule over the universe without any care of mortal concerns.
Okay, so I get that. I understand that, but I want these people who are your fans to know, and they probably will be mad at me for this, but that I thought that the episode of Justice League Unlimited, the old cartoon show, where like Hawkgirl has to team up with Solomon Grundy so they can beat the crap out of Cthulhu, was awesome. And they go inside Cthulhu and there are these like eldritch horrors within Cthulhu. It was great. And they beat him up. And that's okay. And it is like Pulp Cthulhu. It was superhero plus Cthulhu, which is also a very not fitting with this is an unbeatable, unknowable cosmic entity. It was actually, when I was growing up, it was one of my favorite portrayals of Cthulhu-ish stuff because I wasn't into the like unknowable and vaguely racist Star Cthulhu things.
By the way, the monster I was going through was a Shoggoth.
Oh, you wanted Shoggoth? Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get that. I would have guessed Deep Ones. Or something like that.
Yeah, Shoggoth is what I was going for. But
Goth.
So, anyways, all I'm saying is, it's I don't know. I don't know why people care. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'll give up. Derik has officially hit old man territory.
No,
Why does anyone care?
No, I'm just saying, like, why?
Oh, I'm at that. I've been at that territory for 10 years. I don't care. I'm like, who cares? I just found it fascinating that so many people did care and lost their absolute
Well, no, but I
minds.
mean, it's crazy to think that, like, that's not, like, aren't you aware that that's, like, popular and, like, that's, like, what a lot of people like?
I think maybe that's actually why they cared. And
That's
got
actually
mad.
right, because
They were mad because they realized that it was popular
Yes.
and
Okay.
that they was trying to do a thing that was popular, and they don't like that. They want it to be less popular. They want only the things that they like to be popular.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be significant.
Right.
And
Whereas
moving-
I have accepted, right? And this is what I remember I said this about Daggerheart, and I was kind of right, where I said, I've accepted that anything I like will never be popular.
That's fair. But moving on to the talk about danger, which is slightly different than the talk about whether the theme is cozy core versus grimdark. I think that the interesting thing about our thoughts of, it used to be so dangerous, now it's not. I'll say up front, 5e is very, very not dangerous overall. In most cases, you can obviously change it as the GM and really up the difficulty level, but PCs, especially as they level up and choose the optimized things, can just crush everybody. It is true. And the death and dying system is very forgiving if you don't totally TPK. Also true. And it is certainly true that the older editions were more dangerous than this.
Mhm.
But I think that even some of those early editions, a lot of people's tables weren't as deadly as everybody.
I 100%
Thinks
agree
that
with
they
you,
were.
Mark. I actually just talked about this last night, Mark.
The
where I
Tomb
s-
of Horrors, yes,
Yes,
okay, but that's an exception.
I literally used that. I said, I think a lot of people have
Oh,
this
well, I didn't watch
mistaken.
your show, but
Oh, okay. I was like, a lot of people, I think, take this faulty logic of going and they look at the Tomb of Horrors and they look at, you just instantly die, you walked into the tomb, the sphere of annihilation. And, yes, those older games, did have more punishing death rules, full stop. But I don't think they were the meat grinders that some people think they were. I'm sure there were some people.
Some people were. Some people would be like, my campaign was.
At my table in the suburbs
And
of
they-
Chicago in the summer of 1979, I went through 75 characters. All right, cool.
But if we're looking back on, like,
I
let's
played with
say,
Dave Arneson's second cousin once removed.
if you're thinking like Gary and Dave and all those people running near the beginning of the time, and like from his own writings, Gary seemed to either be extremely adversarial or have a lot of kayfabe about being adversarial at the very least.
There was a fair amount of kayfabe.
And but if you look at the stories of the characters in his dungeons, like, it's not a story of how Mordenkainen the 51st, who is the 50th younger brother of Mordenkainen after 50 other Mordenkainens died, constantly made it to the end of the thing. Like, he was keeping his characters alive for fairly lengthy periods of time to become these, like, seminal figures.
Well, maybe because Gary created the game and Mordenkainen was his character and no one wanted to kill Gary's character.
That's fair. That's fair.
By the way,
but how about, like,
shout out
something that wasn't his character?
Shout out Runehammer, who just joined, and he said, also the irony of the overlay on this video is abundant, which literally was the first thing I said. I was like, let's clear the air here first.
Absolutely.
Yes, but
right.
Also,
Because think about the game that Gary Gygax created, right? Think about the game that Gary Gygax created, where at level 1, right, you're wizard tapping into the dark powers that man was not meant to know. Releases a rainbow of color spray, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I can't see it! So blinding!" Right? Like, I tap into the dark powers and I summon a big floating hand. Oh, it's a big floating hand, and it's gonna punch you. The whole game is stupid. The whole game is silly, bizarro, weird, kind of cringy crap, and it's always been that way.
You're right, but the art wasn't.
Okay, really? The art? Let me show you the the comic of the wizard wearing star-spangled robes.
I'm talking about
holding a fully plate mail wielding warrior, and he's like shivering in terror.
I'm talking about the
because
art
there's a
from.
rust
Wait,
monster.
look at the covers from Dragon magazine over the years, and that stuff was not this. And yes, of course, once or twice, there's a couple that are whimsical and fun. Like there's the one with the guy with the roses for the beholder. That's a fun cover. But there was a lot of pretty swords and sandals, women in chain bikini art in there as well. And it's not that there wasn't a mix of both light and dark art and humor. It's that dark art that was pretty prevalent in the 80s and 90s would never be shown today at all. And if you did, you'd probably have to apologize for it.
Yeah, well, people also used to love going to a rousing performance of blackface, right? I mean, we move on. We sure. Like, I mean, I love, I like a Franzetta piece as much as anybody else, I suppose. But I also love, Rebecca Guay, and I love, like people can like different things. You don't have to define yourself as a monolith. It's like everyone's so obsessed with just shoehorning themselves into this one narrow vertical column, and they're like, I can't possibly like something else.
We had a super chat from Lot Unfinished Products that says, I think GMs build around only story deaths, less randomness. I'm assuming that the implied is these days, because if we're talking about why things became less deadly.
Right. I mean, yeah, like if you want to talk about like the rules mismatch, I mean, I'm happy to talk about that. Like go play a game like Daggerheart or Fabula Ultima where your character can't die unless you say so. I find that to be very appealing to a certain style of game, for sure.
So Runehammer's like, are things less deadly? How? Well, very simply is that I remember going from 3rd edition to 4th, and how many times are there roll for saver's death mechanics? And there's a lot. There's a lot in 1st, there's a lot in 2nd, there's a lot in 3rd, there's a lot in Pathfinder 1st edition. But 4th edition, not so much. 5th edition, pretty much gone. They
also were on a downward trajectory probably through the entire time, other than 4th being obviously lower and an exception to that rule. Like Pathfinder 1 had fewer things that would just flat out kill you instead of doing an absurd amount of damage or something like that than 3rd edition, which had fewer than 2nd edition and so on.
But there's so much more nuance to that than I think. I think it's just not as easy just to simply say, it's a question of saving throws versus death. I think the inflection point becomes that, look at a game where like you can very callously die, and then ask yourself, how quick would it take me to make a new character and start playing again? And the answer might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Or you just take over one of the hirelings or retainers that's sitting in your party and you start playing them again. And technically back in the day, if you made a new character, they started at level 1. So you weren't really even that complicated. Now, my level 10 3rd edition character dies and the GM says, go make a new level 10 3rd edition character. I'm not playing the rest of the night, right? Like that's a multi-hour process at best.
You're right. Well, first of all, wait, I want to just back up. First of all, I'm only talking about D&D. I'm not talking about Pathfinder. I'm talking about Shadowdark. I'm not talking about anything else.
I'm talking about D&D.
Oh, I know, but I'm reading the chat. I'm reading the chat.
To be fair,
I'm just reading the chat. I just want to make sure people understand that.
Also, Runehammer said that 2024 5.5 is brutally deadly and that death saves are a tiny mitigation, which I'm not sure that's the experience that I've usually seen.
That is
most
not,
people have.
Yeah, that is. I mean,
on
if
the other
that's
hand, I just don't
game,
think any of the additions was really as deadly as people say they were back in the past. But to be clear, they definitely were more deadly. Especially if you didn't use the rule that allowed you to survive at 0 hit points, which a lot of people did, but technically was in many cases optional.
I think it was an optional rule in 2nd edition. I don't know how it was presented in 1st edition.
I don't know either. It may have just been a common house rule back then.
Yeah, because I know in 2nd edition there's definitely a blue bordered section where it talks about dying death at death's door, and it's in blue, so it's an optional rule.
Now keep in mind, I'm just talking about. There was a lot of save versus death spells. There was a lot of save versus death mechanics, and as far as I know, they're pretty much gone. I mean, they just
okay. It's so complicated. Okay.
I know it is complicated.
But okay. This is a very famous thing. I'm sure. Well, maybe you know the answer. Do you know how many hit points Loth, the demon queen of the spider web pits, or demon queen of the demon web pits, had?
I remember it was really low.
Yeah,
it's like 100
It's like
and
50,
no,
60,
it's 66.
something like that.
Oh,
No,
66.
66, like 666.
Well,
Yes.
hey, wait! I actually just played a first edition D&D game with Eric Mona, where we played the Circle of 9, and I think I played Mordecainan or something. I actually have the sheet around here. I had 60 hit points, and I was level 20.
Right. So my point is, so again, there's this thing where there's sacred cows, and this has been a problem in D&D since first edition. I could do a whole probably 17-hour stream on this, where they change things, but they don't change enough because it's a sacred cow, and people would get upset, and they keep certain things, but then it problematically changes things because you end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or you keep the baby and the bathwater, or you keep the bathwater even though you don't have a baby anymore. So back in the day, hit points weren't that high. So instantly killing a creature wasn't really that mad. You're like, oh, I instantly killed the giant. Well, how many hit points did the giant have? 45. Right. So the fighter with, several attacks around or whatever like that was pretty much going to kill the giant in like a round anyways, or two, maybe. So instantly killing the giant, not a huge deal. But then when you kept instant death spells, but then you scaled the monster hit points to 250 and 350. And by the way, in third edition D&D, a fighter with a longsword did D8 damage. And so suddenly the fighter's like, okay, well, I would need to hit this giant 10 rounds consecutively in order to kill it. And you're telling me the wizard can just snap their finger and kill it instantaneously? And I'm like, yes, that is what I'm telling you. And they're like, so the wizard can do 350 damage in a single hit and I can do 10? And I'm like, yep, that's right. So they kept instant death, but then they scaled the hit points to these obscenely high levels, and they didn't realize, oh, hey, you know what we're doing? We're really fucking over the martial characters here, and we're creating this problem where saving versus death spells or the death save spells are more problematic than ever. Okay, other issue. Death saves, right? When do you get death spells? Later in the game. Well, guess what? The way saving throws used to work was they just went down as you get higher level, and monsters use the same saving throw tables as players. This meant that if you were a 17th level character, your saving throw versus spells or your saving throw versus death, magic, or poison was the same, regardless of whether that spell came from a 5th level monster or a 20th level monster or a god. It was just based off of your level, which meant that as you got higher level monsters also had really low saves. So the only thing that death saving spells or instant death spells really had a good chance of working on was lower level monsters. And so despite the PX, what the problem was is in third edition, they introduced DCs. And this created a massive problem because suddenly you had these insanely high DCs for your level and monsters could fail them. In fact, in some ways, despite it being very maligned, incapacitation is more in line with the original presentation of death saving throws because they tended to work on lower level monsters. And actually, once you reached a certain high level, even if you were 18th level, if you're fighting a 18 hit die or 20 hit die monster, their saving throws were so good, it was independent of your ability to cast spells that it didn't even make sense for you to waste your time trying to instantly kill them because if they save the spell, they take no damage. So that was my rant.
So basically,
I think that a lot of what you said was right, Derik, but there's some specifics that people may be nitpicking you in the comments about because you claimed that the fighter only did 10 when really they were probably doing like 60 damage per hit with weird extra passive bonuses 5 times per round. By the time we're talking about these high levels, where
I'm just assuming you're casting a spell out of the player's handbook versus if you have some weird.
You're assuming that you're a high level death spell,
pun build. I'm just talking about
a pun build. Just like you're 15th level and you're casting a death spell, your fighter's not doing 10 at that level. Well, now if you were talking about your first level and casting color spray. But then the giant wouldn't have 300 hit points.
Fine.
Like
you're doing, your strength is 22. You have a +4 sword. You're doing D8 plus 10. You have weapon specialization. You're doing D8 plus 12. There.
So
you're
basically
definitely doing more than that, but your overall point is correct. Even the specifics were not, and the DCs were really what changed things in third edition because you could ramp it up so high that those high level monsters could not save against your death effect.
Sure.
I was trying to say is because the rules were so poorly written and broken in first edition, it was deadly. And second edition, and maybe even third edition, is that maybe they've just gotten so much better at writing rules and doing game balance, which you could talk to Mark, that it is actually making the game fairer. So maybe our estimation of it being more deadly is that it was just incredibly wonky and unbalanced, which made
That's
it
an interesting
deadly.
theory.
And
I also think that
I think they intended it to be.
No, I'm not
more
saying that was an
deadly back
accident.
then. A little bit. It's a little bit of each, Stephen. So I think you may be right that some of the danger was unintentional, but some of it was intentional, to a degree. And it's obvious that some of the changes were meant to make things less deadly than they were before. But like you said, Stephen, maybe in a way that feels more fair, so that your losses feel like they were earned rather than just like, well, that's what happened.
Yeah, well, I'm going to agree with Runehammer again, because the other thing too is, like, it's like you talk about people going, oh, things aren't deadly anymore in 5th edition. Well, maybe part of the reason is, number one, Stephen, I think you might be right. The rules were certainly, I would say, less caring about that, protecting that sort of importance of the protagonist. But the other thing is too is go to Reddit, go to X, go to Blue Sky, like GMs like pat themselves, they all just circle jerk each other about how they like, I don't even roll dice, or I just, I just make the players fight until it feels like they really feel like they've earned it, and then the monsters die. So there's like a whole culture around just pretending that they're fighting. So yeah, of course you're not going to die callously and stupidly in 5th edition, because your GM isn't letting you do that, or they're nerfing the hell out of the monsters, or come play 5th edition with me. And because the funny thing is, people say, oh, 5th edition's just not deadly at all. Then you're playing and someone gets knocked down, and and then the GM has all their monsters swarm that character and beat them while they're dead or down to trigger more death saving throws, and then that person will be on Reddit going, oh, my GM is such an asshole.
My GM was so mean. Why did they do that?
So mean. It was
right?
like, yeah, exactly. So which is it? Like you
it's because both sides of the culture exist. It's this big tent. And you're right. I think I agree with a lot of things Runehammer is saying. He has some really good takes on this. He's also brought up the same thing I did earlier on of like, what does the deadly mean? Number of deaths per number of sessions. Were people really dying that frequently, even in the early editions in some of the seminal games that were played near the beginning? I don't know that they really were dropping like flies in those games. They may still have survived a decent number of sessions.
And even if they were, and now I get it. Yes, I understand. Oh, you lost a point of constitution or whatever. I get it. But Raised Dead has been in the game forever. Yes, it's not Revivify or whatever, but Gary was basically like, oh, you went into the dungeon. Yeah, then I got killed, and then I went back to town and they raised me and then, come back. Because again, it's this weird cognitive dissonance where there's this like modern trope, because to be clear, Raised Dead, the existence of it, makes for dramatic storytelling really fucking lame, right? If Iron Man, went out after snapping and they were just like, Raised Dead. Like it really wouldn't be that dramatic. And Raised Dead kind of shits all over. So what do people do? They go, oh no, we banned Raised Dead in my campaign. Death is meaningful and scary. And if someone did want to come back, they'd have to battle their way through hell and rescue his soul from the clutches of Despater. And I'm like, oh, okay, so legit, right? And then they're like, yeah, but then I just fudge so that no one actually dies, because that would be really problematic, because we're playing a game where, people could die theoretically. So I have to make sure that they don't. Gary knew that sometimes shit happened and they die and you get a Raised Dead and you just move on about your time. No one looks at like an MMO like WoW and goes, oh my God, this game is so lame, because when my character dies, I just appear back at a spirit healer and then I just continue on my adventure. They're like, it has no meaning without death. They're like, what do you want? Like a game where you sign up and when you die, they like delete your account and you're not allowed to play anymore? I mean, I think
a lot of the people in chat have made a really good point too, which is that games that have the sort of, whether it's an ivory tower intentionally or just accidentally, have like these power combos that are much stronger than other straightforward builds, do have a sliding scale of difficulty, so that the community as a whole can't have a unified opinion of how deadly they actually are. Like if you're playing 5e 2024 and you're kind of building your character almost at random with the choices that you're being given, and you're not putting your ability score increases into the strongest stats, you're not picking the best feats for your character, you're picking even subclass options that you wind up not using because they weren't right for the campaign, the amount you will actually find that it's deadly and possibly a TPK worthy is very different compared to people who have chosen some of the options which are like dramatically stronger. Yeah. Like there was when we were balancing dragons, there was one guy who did a spreadsheet for us of all the subclasses of various martial classes so we could compare our Draconic Ravager. And we found out that some of the subclasses just like did 3 times as much damage as the other ones. And I was like, well, that's a problem. And we decided we would balance based on like a baseline that was more like most of them and not the one that did 3 times as much. Because otherwise, what are we doing? We're just rising to the top. But when that one that does 3 times as much is in the game, if some groups are always playing with ones that are about that strong, and the others are just playing with whatever they want at random, it could actually be pretty deadly for some of those groups while still being trivially easy for the groups that are optimizing a lot. That was the problem in, I know Steven said not Pathfinder 1, but Pathfinder 1, 3.5, 3.0. Literally, you could make a group of characters where any one of those characters could defeat 100 copies of another equal leveled character that was built by a more beginner player easily. Or like, yeah, my 10th level character can beat 100 of your 10th level characters.
We didn't play 5e for that long, but when we first started playing 2014, we kind of saw it as an OSR game, and we were kind of like, oh, look, you know, like it's kind of going back, you know, it's definitely not 4th edition, and it's kind of even kind of more, it feels more like AD&D 2nd edition. So when we first played it, we were like, and this blows people's minds because they're like, but I didn't know anyone did that. I was like, it said feats were optional rules. We didn't use feats. We were just like, oh, okay, well, cool. We just won't use them. And so our 5th edition characters didn't have feats, and my players have never been the type to like, you know, spam multi-class, you know, crazy, wonky, you know, cheesy builds. So we're mostly just single class characters without feats. Yeah, our power level was a lot lower than probably what most people are used to when they think about a 5th edition character.
All right. So let me talk for a bit. I think it's the least I've spoken in any of these shows, but that's okay. I am going to take a different approach. I actually don't know or care if the game is more deadly or less deadly, because to be honest, it's how you run it. Okay. I could run Call of Cthulhu and everyone is like petting puppies and eating Twinkies, or I can run a game of D&D and everyone dies left and right. Okay. A lot of it is how the GM runs it. A lot of it is the adventures you're running. You know, you can tailor something to anything. So I think what people are upset about is perception, and the perception of how D&D has been changing. Because if you look at the, you know, latest rule book and you see the pictures in this rule book, and you see like things like that, like the watercolor the happy orcs with the happy humans. And, you know, you're just, because a lot of what Dungeons and Dragons is, and pretty much all games, not just role playing, but board games, obviously video games, is that the graphics and the perception of what you are playing is proposed or imposed through the graphical art and the design itself. And then I know I'm not talking about, you're completely right, but pull up. I know that's a great picture, by the way.
Well, I just want to say cover art.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But that cover art is badass.
And then comic book where they go, we're playing as students and teachers in an industrialized technological world. It's called Papers and Paychecks.
I know. But my point is, take a look at the 3.5 rules. Okay. They had some really good art. I mean, you and I've you've talked about that quite a bit, Derik. The 3.5 art rules.
Yeah. Todd Lockwood
are absolutely awesome. Fantastic. And I think that's what people are complaining about is it's not that you can't have a wide variety of layout and design, because you can go back and forth, because I know people are making fun of this layout, but in our games, we have this fun art in the Roll for Combat content, and yet not half, but I'd say some of our stuff is content warnings because, and that's, it's the Pixar effect, because Pixar looks all happy-go-lucky, and then you have Bruce the Shark and the end of Toy Story 3 where they're all going to get incinerated and burnt alive. Yes, I know that art. But that's actually what makes it so memorable, okay? That is, I won't get into it, but there's a whole
Just
thing.
saying, there's a picture of the players dressing up as player characters,
and
dressing
also
up as
back
mice
then
and
they had
sneaking into a
no
rat
idea
temple.
what they were doing, and there was like, oh, I got a piece of art, let's just put it in the book because I got it for free, and I'd have to pay that guy $10 to get his piece of art. A lot
Didn't
of
know
it
what
was
they were
that,
doing yet. According to Professor Dungeon Master's last thing, AD&D First Edition was the best-selling edition of all time.
That's not true, but
I Professor Dungeon Master a liar?
yes, I am, because I know where he gets those numbers from, and I actually want to do a show on that where I'm going to pull up the numbers because I actually have the book scan data. So
You're right. Technically, basic D&D did sell more, but
probably. But if you go and put online sales are now blowing everything out of the water by like a mile. But anyhow, my point is that it's perception. Okay, it is all perception, and D&D is very much going with this cutesy, cartoony art style for 5.5. They're really, 5.0 had some of it, but 5.5, they've gone all in. I mean, they've really gone all in. Maybe.
yeah, they renamed charisma to Riz and, talk about how, this bluff is, it's like sense motive is now called sus detector,
Mm-hmm.
Times and people change. I don't know.
Right. But that is actually you're completely right. Times and people change. But it's also that people don't want to take risks, because whenever you're always going to get somebody angry. And I think they'd rather get people angry at them for being too soft than being too hard, if that makes sense. Like, you don't want to show the D&D, the DM cover.
No, I think it's, they could be wrong, of course, but it's a calculated marketing decision.
Oh, it's
they
100%
would rather,
calculated.
if
Like,
they
they
go,
don't want to show this because this is going to get a lot of crap.
They would rather lose the hardcore grimdark grognard population of their thing and then keep the effervescent, positive, modern new audience, and they made a calculated decision and they decided to go with that one. Now, maybe they're wrong. It could be wrong,
but now, okay, I'm going to bring up a fascinating topic, at least for me, because Magic the Gathering, for all its problems, has somehow managed to hit that balance just right. Not always.
What has?
But Magic the Gathering art.
Are you kidding me?
You don't think so? I think so.
Not anymore.
I disagree, because I think they managed to do both. Because
the existence of the fact that now everything is a universes beyond set indicates that your thesis is flawed.
No, I'm talking about
because now you're going to have Avatar Aang wielding a lightsaber, piloting the Starship Enterprise.
I'm talking about core set. I'm talking about core.
There is no core. That is core. That's standard. Those are all standard legal sets. They are playable in every single format, including standard.
Okay, how about this? Why is it then that is working? Because Magic just keeps making more money, and more money. And maybe they're looking at that and saying, that's working, so we got to do that for D&D.
It's being buoyed by speculation weirdos.
Where are you? You're totally out of frame.
Because I'm upset at the ridiculousness of this premise.
What's the ridiculousness of that? Well, the funny thing is that the core rules for things like, Magic are pretty much the same. By the way, here we go. I got my Dragonlance right here. Look at that, baby.
Dragons of Despair.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
is that D1? Yeah, it's D1.
Yeah.
DL1.
DL1. Sorry. DL. And I got DL4 right here too.
Very nice.
My mini I told you I redid my background here.
Is DL4 Dragons of Desolation?
Yes, and I also have DL2 here, Dragons of Flame. And I also have. I actually want to read this. I never got a chance to. It's
yes. Guide to the Underdark.
The Guide to the Underdark.
Yes. AD&D second edition was at halcyon time.
I know, but even look at that art. Like, look at that art. Do you think?
No, I mean, Drow can't be black anymore. So.
Well, look at that. It's like, do you think showing a dark elf in hell, if we put that on a cover,
hell? That's freaking Menzo Baranzan.
You and I know that 99.9% of the infuriating headline would be,
look,
like, how dare they put blackface
is
person in hell?
Roomhammer is taking sniper aim. There is nobody, by your own admission, who is more attuned to the business market and savvy in ways that us lesser men could only hope to aspire to be than Stephen Glicker.
Oh, yeah,
and
true.
Look at your own art style and art direction.
Yes. What about
Why
it?
do you do that? You know why? Because it fucking sells.
Steven likes it. Steven likes the Pixar vibe.
I personally like it. Have you manned our booth? You just did a breakdown of our sales. What was the highest selling one by far?
Well, Eldamon.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And what's the art style for
because
Eldamon?
I pitched them on the brilliance of the game design.
Yeah.
Really, Derek?
Really? You like the art?
Because I tried to tell them
by the art.
Because I tried to tell them that by being a by being a life Eldamon or having a life Eldamon or being a life Eldamon, you'll finally have a healing experience that doesn't make you want to shoot yourself.
That's true.
It's such an incredibly proactive, rewarding gameplay experience.
It is phenomenally fun. But the art, people love it, man. People love that art because it is, and I hate to say it, although it doesn't look it. I'm actually going to say this, and it's not a bad thing, but it's kind of neutral. Okay, it is more neutral than you think it is because it's not too cutesy. Some people might disagree, but we don't. I put out, by the way, a lot of the art around this picture. It's just whatever I can get to fit in the art. So some of it's darker than others, and if you zoom in on it too, it's like a little darker than you think.
If anything, that is one thing that I dislike about D&D art, and maybe even to a certain extent your art, is tonal inconsistency. Pick a lane. Hey, be grimdark. Hey, be cute. Pick a lane.
Oh yeah, I see. No, all of ours is always the same. Our art's always exactly the same. So we're kind of in the middle. Like we try to make it that it can go either way. I kind of do the Pixar level. Is that Pixar can be whatever you can actually put a lot of yourself onto the art, and that's how Pixar. I'm talking about the successful Pixar movies work. And by the way, this is something else Blizzard does really well. I'm talking about classic Blizzard, that their art style was very, very good at making it feel.
Oh, it was very neutral in that it felt cartoony, but still felt serious.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely. Cartoony, yet deadly serious. And that is exactly the style that I go for, that I'm trying to go for. And I might not hit it all the time, but at least I'm always trying for that.
Sure.
And that is our style.
It appeals to a wide variety of people.
Some of it is cutesy and silly on purpose, Steven.
Oh,
some 100%. Of it is cartoony and silly.
And some of it's
mixture.
not.
It's a mixture. Some of it's not. Warcraft is in the same boat.
Yeah.
And I just want to say this because it seems like some people in chat, and especially Runehammer, thinks that this video is about bagging on the picture that was in the thumb. And I think that maybe Derek, I don't know what Derek thinks, because I know Derek doesn't like cutesy things in general, including some of our own cutesy art on Roll for Combat. But I think Steven and I like the art that was in the thumb. I did, at least. I don't want to speak for anybody else was here. And when we talked about the art in the thumb earlier in the episode, we weren't saying we didn't like it.
And to be clear,
we were questioning why some people on social media didn't like it. And we came up with theories and ideas about how
if I was trying to
use a big tent and they want things that are more in their style.
If I was trying to use that art to pitch to somebody my gritty survivalist dungeon crawling game in a fallen world where the gods have abandoned you, and casting magic,
Ragnarok.
If that was my pitch and that was my art, and my game had mechanics like despair and corruption and blood magic, and then that was my art, yeah, I would have a big problem with it. On the other hand, if my game and the people who play my game are all about running coffee shops and making bonds of friendship and whatever the fuck that romantasy fake book that they actually made into a real book that Laura Bailey's character was writing or reading or whatever in the one Critical Role season, about like the orc and the tusk or something. If that's what my game is about, then cool. That works really well. But which is 5th edition? If you were just to poll most people, what is your 5th edition most likely going to be about? Grim, dark dungeon survival horror game, or lighthearted pseudo Ren Fair soap opera Critical Role wannabe drama?
I think this is the problem.
My guess is it's going to more be the latter.
I think here's the thing, is that people who are the grognards who grew up where the style was mostly gritty. Of course, there was cartoons. Of course, you had Wormsley, whatever. I forgot the in Dragon magazine. There was a mixture of styles, but for the most part, it was pretty heroic. It was very Conan-esque, I would call it.
Okay.
And those people now want to still play D&D, and they're just not represented in their art. They feel like the art doesn't represent them at all. And if they want to find something that is truly disturbing or heroic or kind of just like chainmail bikini,
it's just very kind of a gross or gritty piece of art.
Not even gross or gritty. I would just say like heavy metal-esque style of art.
Metal, kind of darker.
Yeah,
grimmer,
it just doesn't exist.
And then less light and colorful. I feel like that there's a mixture, and it depends on what you're looking at, though.
I think the closest that you can get to metal is the picture of the fighter in the 5.5 book, which, by the way, I think is like freaking 10 out of 10. Gorgeous.
That's an awesome picture.
Amazing piece of art.
Some of the PC pictures are really
good. The dwarf.
Oh, that's such a good piece of art.
I know, that piece of art. I saw that. I'm like, that is 10 out of 10 out of 10. Yeah, like, that piece is ridiculous. And the monster
manual art is really good in 2024 as well.
By the way, I like Null Zero. I like Null Zero's comments. It's gritty, like the D&D Saturday morning cartoon show.
Yeah, right.
You are 100% right. Well, I just watched the whole video of like how if you watch 80s movies like RoboCop, watch RoboCop the extended cut, which is on Amazon, because RoboCop is already like ridiculously gory. The extended cut.
Verhoeven is a weirdo. So.
Oh, I love Verhoeven. Well, oh God, talking about gory. The extended cut is way worse.
Right, which
it's
is,
like, I don't even know how it's possible, but it is like vomitous. It's so disgusting.
I don't like gore.
Oh, I don't like gore either.
I don't like gratuitous violence.
I don't either.
Wait. Never liked like any of the Saw movies or like these really gross out horror movies. I don't like body horror.
Oh,
It's a big reason I don't like Call of Cthulhu. I don't like body horror.
Wait. There was a RoboCop
I don't want to be grossed
Saturday morning cartoon. So,
all right, I believe it.
And there's a Rambo Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, well,
talking about Rambo, First Blood, it's a gory movie. Okay, he's killing people in horrible ways, really bad, terrible ways. He's slitting throats. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about some of the gorgeous things. Saturday morning cartoons. So you can have that. So don't think D&D was the exception. Okay.
Well, cognitive dissonance is strong, but yeah. So, this idea that the other thing too about D&D used to be dangerous. What happened? This is a more complex understanding, I think, of the game. And it gets a little bit into GNS theory, and I don't know if we want to go down that road here. But but outside of GNS, I think it actually has to do with Magic the Gathering. And I've talked about this before. Magic the Gathering has these ideas of these player psychology profiles. We've talked about these before. Yeah. And I think they apply to a variety of games, not just Magic the Gathering.
We have the same thing in video games, by the way.
And
that's very well known. That's known.
So Mark Rosewater and the team at Wizards of the Coast believe at a generalized level that there are 3 player psychology reasons. It's the reason why you play the game. And the reasons are, and they give these names, they give them Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. Timmy plays games to feel something. Timmy's play games to experience something. Johnny's play games to express something about themselves.
Yeah.
And Spike's play games to prove something. They use games as a way to prove themselves better than other people, maybe to challenge themselves and to see if they can overcome that challenge. They want to prove something about themselves. D&D came from a lineage of war games. And war games were very much in the spirit of a competitive game. It was a Spike-centric game. And there was an idea in D&D of the game was about a challenge-based mindset, that the game existed so that you could prove yourself, that you were smart enough, good enough, lucky enough to defeat the wiles of the DM's dungeon and achieve success. What I think has happened over the last 50 years, by and large, is that D&D and the role-playing game medium as a whole has moved further and further and further and further away from that spike-based mindset. The idea of a campaign as a competition, the idea that you are using the game and the role-playing game as a means to prove to yourself that you are better, smarter, whatever. And has now moved more into the Johnny and Timmy realm, where the game is now more about using the game as a medium to express yourself, to use the game as a medium to experience things. So the idea of D&D used to be dangerous. Well, part and parcel of the danger is the idea that there's a winner and there's a loser. And when people say D&D used to be dangerous, what they used to mean was you would lose and the game could be basically punishing to you. And that there was a very clear delineation between, the winner, the person with the highest score, and the loser, the person with the lower score, just like we have in sports. And I do think D&D, maybe the game system hasn't really moved that much away from it, but I do think that a lot of people have moved away from that.
All right,
and so D&D in that respect has had to struggle to keep up while not abandoning all of its sacred cows that would somehow piss people off even more, and has also forced many DMs to, fudge and do all this other stuff because they understand that their players are not here to be challenged. Their players are not playing this game to prove whether they are good enough.
So to try to consolidate that into a quicker summary, I think, Derik, what you were saying is the reason why people feel that D&D used to be dangerous, and they may even be right about this statistically, is because more GMs were trying to kill you back then. Because it was for spikes, and the GMs were trying to kill you, and now they're trying to kill you less than they were back then. And, the system is a little more lenient in having fewer instant death and things like that overall. It is. Yep. But if GMs were trying to kill you as hard as some of those GMs used to be trying to kill you back in the day, they could equally well do it by building encounters that were much higher than the suggested ones, by throwing in nasty tricks that do some horrible thing to you, and by using their phenomenal cosmic power as the GM to be your enemy.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, to all the people in chat being like, they're tourists, they're theater kids, they're snowflakes. Let me ask you this. Do you ever play sport where you and your friend just, sit around a basketball hoop and just shoot hoops? Do you ever go down to the tennis court or the pickleball court and just hit balls with your friend? Does every time you play a game like basketball or tennis have to be, nope, it's a competition. It's love serving love. I'm serving winners to your forehand, your backhand. We're playing one-on-one for money. Nope, you can't just.
People in chat say that we're talking to you before said they are TTRPGers. They don't go outside.
Okay,
well,
you know what?
Okay.
You know what?
Fair enough. All right. So wait, I got something. I got a story that no one's heard before. How about this? Okay. That does relate to this. So last year I went to Page, and that's the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, where I'm a special guest, and I will be at this year's as well. And I was hanging out with Frank Menser. We'll get to the super chat in a second. And Menser was talking to me about history of D&D and I don't know, talking about the old days. And he was going on and talking quite a bit about how, at least to him, I don't know if it's completely true, but I think it's fairly true, is that what revolutionized and made D&D so important back then is that he felt that this was the first game that you played cooperatively and that there wasn't a winner and a loser. And I think about that because now put yourself in the mindset of the 60s and 70s and man, watch any of those old movies, like the coaches were, you know, you guys are all losers. You're all losers. And the coaches were horrible. Everything was winning and everything was losing. And I grew up with that. And it was horrible. It was brutal. But it was a mindset that there were no everyone wins. Everyone gets a participation trophy. Everyone, no, there's none of that. There was you either won or you lost. And that was it. And D&D, although I think was many times extremely adversarial between the players and the GM. And I don't think that was an accident, but it could be played cooperatively where everyone was just trying to tell a story and be and actually be.
No, you just hit it. You just hit upon it.
What?
Okay. You just hit upon it brilliantly. Okay. Sports at the, college, high school, pee-wee level. You mentioned people were like, you got to win the intensity.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy.
Winning really actually meant nothing. You're not a professional. You're not going to get a better trade deal next year. You're just not a professional.
Exactly.
So winning itself actually wasn't really worth anything. Right. Winning meant the same thing as losing. What sport was really good for was building team relationships, right? Exercising problem solving, physical exercise, and bodily coordination, right? Those are the actual value of sports. But in that time and that place, you had a lot of kids who sucked at sports and didn't play sports. So they played D&D instead. Yes. So D&D was the proxy for their sports. That was their team sport.
Which people just said, together. And they just proved that 5 minutes ago when people said they don't go outside.
Right, exactly. So for them, D&D was their opportunity to compete and be on a winning team and work together because they didn't get that experience from the Little League, baseball field, and they didn't get that experience from the from the hockey.
They also explore that in Stranger Things, by the way.
There's definitely an element of that, right?
Where they even talk about that.
And so, in that respect, when you think about the value of sports, if your kid was playing on a Little League team and the other team was just there to like pretend to be another team so that your team could win, like it would kind of be like, what was even the point of this? The whole point was for us to have to learn to work together and overcome these challenges, which is what D&D was. But what I'm trying to say is that as time has gone on, that mentality and that mantra, I don't think there's a single child in my entire city that I live in that doesn't play sports. I think they all play soccer. I swear to God, they must all play soccer because they're all there every weekend. But I just think that idea of this ostracization, that nerds are over here and jocks are over here, and the lines are much more blurry. And I think that now people look at the game and they go, we don't need the game to compete anymore. We don't need the sport for the competition. Instead, we celebrate that the sport is good for its own sake. Just the social element, the physical activity element, the exercise, the leadership skills, the teamwork, the team building skills. And I think people can take that principle and apply it to TTRPGs. I don't play TTRPGs to compete. I do it for the social interaction and the emotional intelligence building and the teamwork building and the ability learning. There's an entire crowd. It's not called a role-playing game. When I used to work at Progressive, it's called Toastmasters. And the whole thing is just a bunch of people getting together to learn how to publicly speak and learn how to be flexible and adaptable to their speech style on the fly. You could apply some of those same tenets and apply them to a role-playing game.
So I think there's still a lot of spikes.
Yes,
in tabletop RPGs.
But absolutely
there are now also more Johnnies, Timmies, Vorthoses who want to learn about the lore, although they're rare. Maybe a few Melvins who want to tinker with rules.
There you go.
Now, we had a couple super chats. Anthony Peterson said, is it possible to create an RPG for all three of Johnny, Timmy, and Spike with different modules for a GM to pull out depending on the encounter or the
Pathfinder 2?
That already exists. That already exists.
Derek says Pathfinder 2.
It is kind of
I think
Pathfinder 2.
2 is kind of in there. It
2.
depends, though. Your spikes might get mad that they can't spike more in the character build.
Right.
It depends on which spikes you have.
That's true.
Because you can try to, with all of these splits, the splits are imperfect. They are an overgeneralization, right? But I like to split spikes into two kinds of spikes. Like the really, really ruthless spike that basically win at all costs. It doesn't matter if other people have fun. In fact, perhaps if they don't, I'm winning by more. Would take candy from a baby.
Yeah, to be clear, to use a spike
and then
analogy.
there's another form of spike where it's like, I want to win, but part of winning is also that everybody's having a good time.
Right.
Because it's not really a success if I'm trampling on everyone else. And I would say that, and both of those are like, perhaps I gave a even more exaggerated version of the first spike because it's a pretty inconsiderate kind of spike. It made the second spike seem more reasonable. Some spikes of the first type might say the second one is not a real spike because they're not winning at all costs. The point of the matter is Pathfinder 2, in terms of which spikes like it, it's the second kind.
Yes.
In fact, they sometimes are very happy because they're like, I can spike out and optimize the heck out of my build.
Yeah.
And I'm still not destroying or disrupting the game for everyone. Whereas the first kind of spikes sometimes get frustrated because they're used to being able to create a character that can force the GM to throw in encounters 3 or 4 or 5 levels higher than normal, and they cannot, and they wanted to do that.
It's the same way of like games done quickly, right? Speed running for video games. There are usually, as I understand it, there's like 2 records. One is you play the game quickly, but you don't cheat. You don't use bugs or exploits. And then there's another category for people who go, well, if you're willing to, clip through this wall that was never finished by the developer and, swap this quickly thing, you can beat the game much quicker, but it's a different type of experience. So there's the spikes who basically are like winning at all costs, we'll cheat, to win. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. We'll steal signs so that we can win the World Series or whatever like that. And then there's the other type of spike who says, look, you set the rules and the restrictions of the game. I will abide by them. And within that framework, I want to see if I can beat your challenges. And you're right, Mark. Pathfinder 2 is very much in that spec. It
frustrates the
other
spikes who really enjoy that. What can I glitch through the wall and fight Dracula at the very beginning of the game or something like that? Because they just find joy. And there's nothing wrong with finding joy per se, as long as the rest of your group are also those kind of spikes or appreciate it from like weirdly doing something the system was drastically not meant to do to completely trivialize it. As long as your social contract for your group is that they're okay with that. But Pathfinder 2 is not great for those kind of spikes. There was another super chat from Agile Monk who said, I love Mark S. and Derek as they rock. I have total teased for Steven, but he won't take my calls. I love RFC and I support all of their KS and projects.
Hey, Agile, first of all, I'll take your call. I keep asking you what this is about, so just answer the question of what you want to talk about, and then I'll talk to you. And second, I've had some major family issues that I rarely can't get into that I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I've literally been in an airplane. I've been to the airport probably 20 times in the last 3 weeks. So I just have a lot of things going on right now.
And yet you say I'm the one who is unavailable.
I'm always available for you, Derek.
Yeah, because you want stuff from me.
That's true. Hey, man, you can ask stuff from me. You just never do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, one day I will need it.
One day I will ask you a favor.
Steven, one day I may come to you for a favor. That day may never come. But until then, accept this analysis as a gift on my daughter's wedding day.
Right, I was waiting. You beat me to it. I was about to do that, but
yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think
Glicker, Sarah. What have I ever done for treating you such disrespect?
On the day of my daughter's wedding,
and you asked me to do data science on the day of my daughter's wedding.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's very important for people to really get into the mindset of the 70s because that's when D&D was made. And I'd say even the 80s. And something that's kind of a good, if you watched Cobra Kai, especially the first season, really kind of gets into that because like they go into how what's his name? I forgot the leads. Johnny is trying to open up a dojo and he's stuck in the 80s. And the kids come in and they're all like, you have to hold our hands and no one can lose and all this. And he's like,
he's like, no mercy.
Right. He's literally like, what is this bullshit? And he's calling people like pussies. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, that is exactly the way we grew up. I mean, it is actually kind of stunning how accurate that is that when I was a kid, like, oh my God, it was horrible. I mean, it was really, really brutal. And I have a story because my kids they're older now, but like my son went to go play lacrosse and the coach was one of those old school 70s coaches that was screaming and yelling at the kids. And there was so many complaints about him because the kids were like crying and they're trying to like just play a sport. And he was fired. I mean, and it was a volunteer coach. I mean, he was fired because he was too mean. And I was like,
well, was he getting W's? That's the real question, right, Steven?
Well, exactly. That's right. But the point is that that's not the point of the sport.
No,
and
that's my point.
I'm a coach. I coached quite a bit. I coached a lot of baseball. Big surprise.
I bet you weren't the 70s style abusive coach.
I was even better. I have a good story. You want to hear a good story?
Has that implied that all of our stories were bad?
Yes.
Yeah, we had bad stories.
Arrow, your stories are bad. No, I'm just saying you want to hear another good story that none of you've ever heard this before. Okay. So
I was on the moon.
You don't know
this, but I used to work for NASA.
It's a good story.
You're like Forrest Gump. All right, continue.
I am Forrest Gump. I do love shrimp. So, my favorite food. So, I had a team, and we used to Bad News Bears, and this is okay. It is 7th grade girls, and it was me, and it was my daughter's team, and they were really good. But let me tell you, when I mean 7, like here's an example: is that the other team would show up. We actually showed up in this one team. They all had this amazing outfits and they all looked all together and they each had their own little bags and they would hang the bags up and they're all lined up and they're in these perfect bags and they had their bat and their helmet in it. And I looked at this and I'm like, man, these people spent a fortune. They look amazing. And then we show up. I literally have like one bat, one helmet, everyone's sharing a bit. Like it is like we are such a mess, right? And we're like, we are the Bad News Bears. No one's wearing matching outfits. We go, we destroy them. Okay, it was like wasn't even close. Like we would win like 20-0. Okay, these guys were so good. This team. On top of that, so there was a girl on the team whose parents wanted. They had an interesting thing is that they would train their kids to be really good at something so they can get a scholarship when they went to college. This girl who was on my team, Jessica, was trained in softball and she was a pitcher. And let me tell you, she can throw like 70, 80 miles per hour. Okay? I mean, like she was like no joke. Like you could not hit her as a grown man. Okay. She was so good at pitching and it really wasn't fair. I mean, she was basically professional. And I think she did get like a softball scholarship in the end. I mean, she was incredible. And she's been playing softball her whole life. And she was on our team, I guess, just to be with her friends. And because she was so good, I never really put her in games because it just wasn't even fair. It wasn't even close, right? So we get to the championship, all right? This is where it gets good. We get to the championship, and we have here the Bad News Bears on my team. And then we go up against another team, and that team had the coach from the 70s. He was screaming at the kids, yelling at them. He was like really nasty. And there was probably 100 people in the stands. And I knew a lot of the parents. I knew a lot of people in the stands. And this is the championship game. And we go in and I'm like, I forgot what it was. Like he was just being so mean to his kids. And I was just like, wow, this is really terrible. And then something happened at the plate. I don't remember exactly, but I went to go like talk to them. And then I went up and then the other coach came up And I'm like, look, we're just trying to have fun here. We're just trying to play a game. And then he yells at me in my face, point blank, like, oh no, this is the championship. We gotta win. We got, something like that. And you guys know me. And I was like, really? Really? Are you going there?
Did you play Jessica at that point?
I was like, okay, buddy, it is on. I was trying to be nice. It's like, you want to play that card? You're going to play that card. I'm like, and by then it's like, whatever, like tie game or like 1-1. And these games are 6 innings and it's the second inning. And I'm like, Jessica, you're up. And so Jessica comes in. I actually have videos of this. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. I mean, it was like the Bugs Bunny cartoon. We actually had to have an adult catcher because that's how hard she threw. Okay. It was, and then the other team was actually complaining because it was so unfun. Because it was like, we can't even see the ball, like, let alone hit it. It's ridiculous. And that coach was so quiet. The other parents were like literally congratulating me. They're coming up like,
the parents from the other team were congratulating you to be like, you put that guy in place. He's such a jerk.
And he was dead silent because he
realized,
who
doesn't love a fuck around and found out story.
I was like, fuck around and find out. But then it actually was interesting. So first of all, there was someone on her team, the professional team, on the other team. Yep. She actually got a hit. She got a double because she could hit it. Because she obviously sees that all the time. They're friends. She got a double. She was the only one. And let me tell you, the ump was even like, good job, man. Like, even the ump was on my side. Okay, everyone was on my side. But then he comes up to me, and I didn't know this rule because it's never happened. He goes, well, no pitcher is allowed to pitch more than 3 innings. Because I was there to have, I was competitive, and we were obviously in the championship, but I also can still have fun. You can have both. So I would always mix up the pitchers. And if I had Jessica pitch, it would be for like 1 inning just to get her in, but that was it. And then it was like, well, this is going to be our 4th inning. You can't ever pitch. It's the last inning. It's the 6th inning. And we were winning by then. So I brought in someone. I'm like, uh-oh. And then I quickly found someone else. I brought her in and she struck out the side and did win. And then we won the championship and everyone was happy.
And then everybody clapped. It was
everyone's like, and that guy,
there you go.
And
Steven will cap that off with a super chat from Agile Monk that says, Steven, I'm sorry to hear about this. I'll add you to my prayer warriors prayer list. Love and blessings, sir.
Yes. So anyhow, long story short is that
good guy, Agile Monk.
After all that, the guy, he was so subdued, and we did the old do the handshake thing. He wouldn't even shake my hand. He was so mad.
I think you just described. Are you sure you didn't just describe the Mighty Ducks? Because it sounds like you just described the Mighty Ducks.
I was expecting you to say that, like, Rumpelstiltskin, that he was so mad that he jumped up and down and like stubbed his toe or something like that.
When we see each other, I have video proof of this.
Right. And then everyone shunned him, and then his own team didn't shake his hand, and they went over to our team, and then his wife, right there in the baseball team, left him, and it was.
No, it was great.
He got a call on his cell phone and he just got fired.
No, seriously, that would have been great. No, but he was like, I remember after, I felt bad. I didn't want to do it to the kids, but I was like, the coach was like yelling at my face. And then I was like,
and then a giant truck showed up with a massive sound system and started playing We Are the Champions.
We are the champions.
And then giant scrolling text appeared in the air and started floating upwards.
Well, few people know this, but the Mighty Ducks was actually based upon Steven's softball coaching.
Well, you see, my brother works in Hollywood, and when he talked about Robin's team, and they heard this, and they said, "Wow, this could be really good." But if we use baseball, then we'll probably owe him credits. But I didn't know my lawyer back then, so I wasn't good enough to secure the rights.
I've known my lawyer since 9th grade.
Was he a lawyer in 9th grade too?
No,
probably.
No, this just happened. This happened. Well, it was like 10 years ago when this happened.
Okay,
way
after the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, no, this happened. It was like 12 years ago. It was like 12 years ago.
Omen Owl says the Mighty Ducks was a documentary. I think you mean a documentary.
Oh, Oh, dun, dun, shh. Hey, man. Oh, good job. Good job. I got to get some more sound effects in my thing. No, that's a real story. My point is that I coached from a way of love and let's have fun, and everyone had a great time on the team, and we won the fucking championship.
Sure.
And this guy coached super mean, nasty, to the point that I heard stories about this guy after this incident.
So,
and he made it to the championship too.
yeah. So the truth of the matter is that people want to have their cake and eat it too. That's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
People want to have the competition sport experience because it feels real and it feels dangerous and it feels earned and it feels.
But they want to win and not die.
But they want to win.
Right.
They don't want to be the other team at the end of the Mighty Ducks.
They want to be the Mighty Ducks.
They want to be the Mighty Ducks. They don't be the
Hawks. The yelly coach guy.
Yeah, they don't want to be the Hawks.
Against.
Right. They don't want to be the Hawks. They want to be the Mighty Ducks. So they're like, okay, I want to have a sport where I can win, or I want to have a sport where the competition is real and the danger is real and the victory will feel earned. But I also want to be like, the winning team. And when we do our crazy cool move, it's not like shut out and like you lose. No, Charlie at the end does the triple deke that Gordon Bombay could never do, and Gordon Bombay hit the post and it ruined his whole life. He became a really successful lawyer and had all this money. It was terrible. And then Charlie does it, and Charlie misses completely. The goalie completely reads him and he goes, what the hell is this lame move? No, he hits. Of course he hits the goal. Right. So people want to have a sport movie, and it's really tough. In fact, it's impossible to have that. You can have games. No, you can have games that are sports and you have games that are movies. The only way you get a game that is a sport movie is when you have a game that is designed as a sport, but with such carefully constructed and hidden to people who aren't really paying attention that well, guardrails that it becomes effectively, functionally impossible for you to actually suffer the consequences of your actions. D&D 5th edition falls into this category because while we all know that a simple healing word and 3 death saves and they reset when you get back up basically means that you can't actually die, for the vast amount of people who play this game, they are so unaware of that level of consciousness that they're like, oh my God, it was so close. I couldn't believe it. Our fighter went down to 0 hit points and it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then the cleric got in there with the cure spell and just brought him up. And it was it was so close, dude. It was like, it's close. I couldn't believe it. But we all are like, well, yeah, of course, you were never actually in any danger. I mean, what was going to happen? I mean, even if they did die, the cleric had Revivify. It was just not going to be a problem. You tell them that and they kind of don't understand, And then on top of that, you have a fudging culture within the GMs who go, and I wasn't even rolling the monster's attack rolls. I just made them hit just enough. Again, I've said this before. I'll say it again. If before making a very important attack roll, the GM goes, the monster rears back. Oh, this is going to be bad. How many hit points do you have again? Oh, okay. If the GM ever asks you that before they attack you, they are lying to you and they are about to fudge. Okay. They're going to be like, oh, you're hit for 22 damage. Oh my God, guys, that leaves me with 3. I can't believe this is so dangerous. We're so close.
I don't understand. That's the thing we need to do is fudging culture. Cause it's like, not only do we not, I know fudge. I know you don't fudge. Like
well,
my
players track
I know
my
your
players track the monsters.
Right. And mine, now I'm using Foundry. It literally says in Foundry if they hit or miss.
Yeah.
I don't even get to choose. It just says it.
Yeah.
So Derik, I think there is one other way you can have the sports movie without sort of it being like, oh, you just didn't tell that it wasn't really close. And that is survivor bias.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are, like Steven said,
right.
well, we did. And some people who are watching this are, I'm sure, thinking, well, we did. Yes, it turns out that if you have 10 tables that run and you're running something that really is actually dangerous and really is like pretty likely to be a failure, 10%, and it's like a 90% failure rate, 10% will succeed. And they might get that sports movie style nail biting finale. And then they'll remember that one. Mm-hmm. So it is possible just by the odds through survivor bias to get it, even if the system is not intended for it. But it is definitely true that all the way since the beginning, and that's been my thesis in this video, by the way, is that even Gary, who was pretty adversarial, a decent percentage of it was kayfabe because his either that or his players were just vastly outsmarting him with their tactics, because they did survive to go through his dungeons for a decent amount of time. They weren't dying like flies every other.
But again, even if they were at a certain point, you just got to race dead.
Well, sure, or make a new character or do something else.
And to be clear, Metholar, winning all the time is the adage of everyone special is no one special. I will agree that if I am selling to you the idea that my game is one of you and your party versus me, only the smart, only the brave, only the skilled, only the lucky will survive the test of this. If I'm selling that to you as what we're signing up for, if I'm selling this to you as like Tournament of Champions, and then I am lying to you behind the back so that you feel like you're getting that experience, but you're not, or sorry, you're not actually getting that experience, but I'm cheating so that you do, that I do think is somewhat deceitful and problematic. But if my pitch to you instead is, hey guys, we're going to get together and we're going to play a game about creating stories, and it's going to be very collaborative, and we're going to make sure that, you know, everything's above bar, and we're not here to see who is the best pretend fantasy swordsman. You know, we're not going to pretend that we're going to play this weird pseudo war game and see who's better than another person. If we really wanted to do that, we could go play Warhammer, or we could go play Mordheim, or we could go play any number of fantasy skirmish war games. Instead, we're here to do this and blah, blah, blah. If that is the premise and that is what you're selling to your players, then I think that is a very different situation.
What if you sell to your players something in between? What if you say, hey guys, so we're going to play a game, and part of the point of this game is we're going to build up some tension and danger so that you can feel sort of the excitement of that. Mm-hmm. Statistically, you're probably still going to win most of the time. That's how it is. Otherwise, these would all just end before we reach the end of the story most of the time. But my goal is to make it feel tense, even in times when I'm looking at it and I think you're probably going to win by the end of it, most likely, so that you can feel excited. And let me know if I ever go too far on that and you're getting too anxious and upset about it.
But I think even having that conversation,
what if that was your conversation during session 0?
I think having that conversation is kind of a moot point, because even having that conversation would ruin that illusionism that so much of those you know, competition spike driven player profiles would be turned off by. The idea that there was this you know, protective guardian spirit force that where it's like, hey, no, this needs to be legit, because their for lack of a better word, their pride is running. They are getting pleasure from the lied to belief that they really are that good and that they are beating the game. And I, you know, again, I know a lot of people who say I play video games, well, you know, for the story. And I don't really play video games anymore. But when I did play video games, if there was a game and I wanted to play it for the challenge, I didn't fucking play. I played all my video games on easy mode. If I wanted the challenge, I went and played ranked ladder. I went and joined a tournament. Right? So like when I played StarCraft, you know, StarCraft 2, I would play the campaign on easy mode because I'm just there to have fun. And people are like, no, I want to be challenged. I'm like, well, then why don't you just go play people and like beat real people and like get to the top and play the best of the best of the best.
Oh my God. Are you telling people how to have fun? How dare you, Derik?
Well, no. And then people will go, well, no, I don't really want to be challenged. I want to be like pretend challenged. Yeah, but
you're telling other people how to have fun.
You're telling people that they can only be challenged if they're challenged by another
how
person.
dare you? Maybe they like playing hard mode.
Difficulty level on a PvE game.
Yeah.
Correct. Oh, no. All I'm trying to simply say is that in RPGs, there is this perception that, like, you know, you are either playing against people who are actively trying to kill you, or the GM is fudging. And these games do technically exist on a spectrum where it's like, yeah, like you're probably going to win 98% of the time, but it'll feel like you had to like make choice. Like you couldn't have been asleep and still beaten the game, you know? So I think that's where, you know, a lot of modern game design is at, I think.
So why do you dislike the? I guess you could just say it's not for you. Why do you dislike the idea of higher difficulties that are not another player? That are like, okay, you start with fewer hit points. You have worse cooldown on these things. Just like mechanical difficulty toggles.
Because the challenge at that point is what? If you lose, don't you just restart and play it again? Don't you like load from your save point and just keep playing it until you beat it? Isn't that like how Elden Ring works?
I guess it depends on which game we're talking about, right? Some of them will send you back to your save point. You could have a roguelike where you have to start the run over.
It's the reason why Ishmael supported the Dark One in Wheel of Time. Okay, because his logic was, or his reasoning for supporting the Dark One in Wheel of Time was based off of logic. He said, Wheel of Time repeats endlessly. The Dark One only has to win once for all of this to come crashing to an end. So statistically, eventually, after enough iterations, the Dark One will win. So I'm backing that play. So it's like the same thing with that was my reasoning behind why I don't think AI driven competition really feels like competition. Because if you lose, you just reload until you play it again, until you play it again, until you play it again.
If you're saying that only one win it matters and not how many times it takes, then statistically, if you have a decent elo system, eventually if you keep losing and going up against increasingly crappy human players, you will eventually win there too.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm really interested. I mean, unfortunately, I think it's a niche game. They'll never be anywhere. But there's a Final Fantasy 14, the online game. Final Fantasy 14 Online, the TTRPG. And it is a tabletop role-playing game that is not designed to simulate Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy 14. It is designed to simulate Final Fantasy 14 Online. And it has save points.
Yeah, it does. It talks about when you die, you can go back to a save point. It's one of the options for death and dying.
Yeah. And I just wonder how the modern gamer, how that concept would grok with them.
I think it just depends on the people. Some people would just be like, oh yeah, I play video games a lot. That makes sense to me. And some people would get really upset by that.
Yeah.
About the fact that you could just keep going back to the save point. It is listed as an option. It doesn't say that.
No, I know.
To allow it,
but it's a very bold decision.
It really is. It's kind of out there, and I'm for putting bold decisions in there sometime. I wouldn't want to play with that in my tabletop RPG.
I don't know.
But I'm really glad that there are people who are trying it to see what happens and to see if there are people who like that style.
I also want to take some not umbrage, but I also want to take some disagreement with what Omanal says, because I've had this conversation before. Omanal, I don't think that Omanal is wrong. I just think that there's a point to be made here. So Omanal says the chance of a TPK, but it being rare makes combat interesting. A TPK every game session isn't fun. I almost think the opposite is true. I think that if you're expecting a TPK, if you're expecting death to be somewhat regular, then when it happens, it's kind of just like, well, this is the price of, this is the cost of doing business. If it's really rare to the point where it feels like it shouldn't happen, then when it does happen, I think it is far more devastating and far more impactful. And I think it's actually in some ways more problematic. Maybe.
That's interesting. So, you know what, Derik? I think that I don't know about more problematic, but I'm with you on pretty much everything else you said. In fact, I found that for me, Call of Cthulhu style games are not that horrifying because I go into them assuming that my character is a dead man walking.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And I actually one time survived to the end of one. I was like, oh, that's weird. I'm alive, I guess. And so I also just didn't feel very much impact comparatively to even my D&D games, even D&D games in 5e or another system. That, yeah, sure. I don't think it's a big difference like some people think, but it is less deadly in some ways than just because you don't die at 0 hit points or some other things. Well, I felt much more tension, anxious in D&D than in Call of Cthulhu because I assumed my character was going to live.
Yes,
in D&D, and so when it was getting close to maybe I wouldn't live, that was more anxious.
Yeah.
Whereas in Call of Cthulhu, it's just like this character is just a ghost. We just don't know it yet. Like in Sixth Sense, I'm just gonna wake up and realize that I was dead.
You were dead the whole time.
The whole time, basically, right? And I think that you're getting at something there that we haven't really talked about before when we've had similar conversations on this show, but that it's really important. Is the impact there is subverting the expectations.
Right. Yeah. So I want to go back. I didn't even get to finish that whole thing, but the whole concept that until pretty much the 70s, the idea of cooperative gaming didn't really exist. I don't even think it did. Definitely not. I mean, if it was incredibly rare. It was just there's a winner and there's a loser. And it's simple as that. There is winners and there's losers. And now there is cooperative board games. there's cooperative everything. Like there literally is cooperative gaming, which I don't think is a bad thing. I prefer to play cooperative board games than competitive board games, or I like to play games like Root or games like Arcs that we play, which it is competitive, but you're having fun and telling a story together. It's not like, it's not cutthroat, I'm going to kill you, risk.
Correct.
It's not risk competitive. It's we're telling a story and having fun competitive.
Like no, you're absolutely right. And there's articles. I thought I was alone in this, and I was pleased to find that there were a lot of people who've written about leader games, Root, Oath, Arcs, and how it almost sometimes feels like an RPG because you're kind of there's this story element to it.
There's such a and even though it's competitive, it's almost secondary or tertiary. Like that's like, exactly. Oh, I won. Who cares? We had a good time.
Right. The game was awesome.
Right.
And it's funny that I kind of actually agree with you, Stephen, to a certain extent, because look how long it took for cooperative board games to become a thing. But even cooperative video games, when video games first came out, it was all just, either one solo player or it was a competition, it was you versus them. And the D&D and role-playing games were the only way that you could kind of have a co-op experience for decades. It wasn't really until the advent of,
World of Warcraft.
I was going to say massively multiplayer online games, in Ultima Online and EverQuest and stuff like that. And then again, even after decades of board game revolution, the first co-op board games like Pandemic didn't really show up until the 2000s. So before that, board games were always competitive and usually zero sum. I'm winning, so you're losing.
When was the first co-op video game? Wasn't there Doubles Pong?
Maybe, but that would.
There is with two people.
But that's still competitive, right? You're still trying to beat the other.
Okay, what about the one where you're a fire truck with two people?
No, actually, I know the first competitive video game.
Or co-op, not competitive.
Sorry, co-op. That was popular. Gauntlet was the first.
I was thinking of Gauntlet, but then I was like, wasn't there a fire truck one that came before?
There was fire truck.
Games like
there was fire truck where one of you. That actually was a game where one of you would drive the fire truck and one of you would drive the back.
Right,
and it was a two-person.
That was definitely a co-op.
That was definitely co-op. That was from the 70s. That was before Gauntlet. But
Blue Wizard needs food badly.
But I'm saying popular.
True, Gauntlet was much more popular.
No, Gauntlet,
or any of those beat 'em ups where you would play them in the arcade.
Sure.
Well, Gauntlet, you literally had to cooperate. I put thousands of dollars into Gauntlet. Like we would have to barbarian or fighter. I forgot which one it was. Like you go there, elf goes here. Like you would have to literally coordinate to take down the mobs. And you would if you played with bad people, you would be going through the quarters very quickly. And if you're playing with a good team, you could go a long time before you had to put in another quarter.
Incidentally, I love co-op board games because of the fact that you can play with people at a variety of different skill levels, as long as it's one that does a good job of making it so that quarterbacking isn't as much of a problem. Right. And then you adjust the difficulty based on the aggregate skill level of everybody who's there, and you just have fun. Yeah. Whereas in competitive board games, if you have one player who's much better than everyone else and they win the 4-player competitive board game 80 to 90% of the time, people eventually get tired and they won't play with me anymore.
And then, I was waiting for and then that person is me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the that's called the pandemic effect.
That's a serious thing. Yeah. And so I like playing co-op games more because you can just work together and everyone feels like they're.
Lance in chat is one of my friends who plays board games with me. He goes, "That's when you institute the make that player lose rule, and that's when you play the board game and everyone goes, our objective here isn't so that I win or you win or you win. Our objective here is that Mark loses. As long as Mark loses, we win."
So you did that. You did that with me. You guys were like, "Oh,
I did do that with you."
We played Oath. It was like, okay, everyone gang up on Steve because he's kicking our ass.
I don't care if I win. I am happy to lay down and worship your new regime as long as the person who comes out on top of the garbage pile is not Stephen Glicker.
It looks like people are saying that a variety of things they search for also are talking about Pong doubles thing and fire truck.
Again, they clearly existed, but I'm just saying by and large, I think
Pong doubles and fire truck. I played that game.
There's a lot more co-op mode You know,
no, there was, but
video
I said
games
popular.
nowadays than there was, especially with the advent too, obviously,
Even did say
of internet.
popular.
Yeah,
of
I said
internet,
popular.
Of internet speeds, right? Because
Yeah.
sure, you know, I used to go over to my buddy's house, Smith's house in the 90s and play Gauntlet Dark Legacy LAN on his N64. And that was awesome. Or Gauntlet Legends. No, Gauntlet Dark Legacy. No, which one was it?
Which
There was,
one?
there was one for the PS. There was one for the PlayStation 2, and there was one for like the Nintendo 64. But anyway,
was Gauntlet Legends the N64 one, or was it Dark Legacy?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look that up now. Because my brain won't let me stop. Let's
Neither.
see.
I'm
Gauntlet
looking it up already.
Legends.
Gauntlet Legends looks like it was for N64.
Yeah, so I was right. It was
Yeah.
the Legends that was the N64.
Correct. Anyways, so that was a lot of fun, but you had to be in person and all that other stuff. So yeah. Anyways, but yeah, maybe
Had to be
that's
in
what
person.
that's the co-op nature of being like, hey, we can all get together and we can work together against this big bad evil in the form of the DM. And by the way, in some respects, the modern version of role-playing games just takes that one step further, right? We were already 80% of the way there.
Mhm.
Players A, B, C, and D were all on the same team. Now, player E, the dungeon master, is on the same team.
Yeah.
But obviously that removes this element of, you know, competition, and that, you know, you're here to defeat my dungeon. How dare you presume to enter my hallowed halls of death? I will make you pay for every step, and only the brave and clever will leave here alive and with some of my treasure.
You know what, Derek? I think the same lesson that we're talking about here was also taught in an episode of Dexter's Laboratory.
Okay. Okay.
Dexter is the dungeon master, and he is that awful adversarial. I am the dungeon master. You are my pawns. He knows every role. He is mean to everybody with his dungeons, and his friends are like on the verge of quitting. And Dee Dee comes in and doesn't know anything. Is just making everything up with like ponies or whatever. But gives everybody cool Timmy stuff that they like, and then they all want to play with her instead of Dexter at the end, and he loses his group.
There you go.
So, by the way, someone said, oh, the first co-op MMORPG was Mud 1, which is true. Mud 1 is the first co-op. I actually played. People are like, oh, how many people are alive to play it? Oh, I played Mud. In fact, they were called Muds before they were called MMORPGs. They were all called Muds. And the only reason they actually started to turn to MMORPGs because of EverQuest and WoW. But again, I would say, yeah, if we're going up to co-op, I mean, where co-op really became a big deal was not EverQuest, but the raid system in WoW, because that actually, it's fascinating to see how technology changed. Because of WoW, we had things like TeamSpeak and Skype and the ability to actually talk over the internet. Because of that, it actually the technology formed around the same way like Zoom really took off because of the pandemic. It's the same thing. It's like TeamSpeak and these online chat systems really took off because of World of Warcraft, because people needed to coordinate, especially 40-person raids. Can you imagine a 40-person raid?
Well,
They can't even do a 5-person raid now. Ventrilo.
I'll tell you. I'll go one step further. I think it's more impressive that sort of emergent behavior occurred in a game like EverQuest, where there were no raids.
There were no, and there was
just a bunch of people all in the same zone,
like, and would want to go do the same thing,
right? And but there was no, like, it wasn't supported by the game mechanic.
Nope.
You know, like they had to like figure it out and use like, you know, global chat channels. There was no like, we're all joining the raid and you get assigned to group one. It was all just a bunch of people all standing around in the same, you know, zone.
My favorite thing is you would see in general chat, trade, and someone ends up be running in with like 20 mobs following him.
Train to zone. Yeah. If you watch, we played EverQuest with Bob, who'd never played EverQuest before. Me, Smith, and Bob played EverQuest when we were first in exile after we left our studio, and we went to Crushbone, and we were kind of like, you know, giving Bob the EverQuest experience, and then there was a bad pull in Emperor Crush's chamber, and all the orcs came down, and we're like, train. And Bob's like, what the fuck does that mean? He's like, no idea what's going on.
He's like, you're gonna find out, buddy.
You're about to find out. You're gonna learn today.
You're gonna learn what that means, buddy.
that
Oh
was good.
man.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about EverQuest is that I've done a lot of I've done talks on EverQuest and GDC is that the speed of the PCs and the speed of the bad guys was exactly the same. They weren't faster, or they weren't slower, they're identical. So that's why you could train through entire zones, because they would just follow you like one for one. But if you made a turn and you were off by just a little bit, they get a little bit closer. That's why I had to train the people to slow down the mob so they could draw aggro off of you. Otherwise you would like
what a terrible example of a human being right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Everyone
Using other
did it.
people as speed bumps for their train.
I remember.
Wow, Steven.
I
you
remember- well,
you
wait,
would have
wait.
been kicked out of a state of unrest.
Steven,
right
you're
away.
the character in
Everyone
lit
did it.
RPGs.
Everyone did it.
You're
I
the
didn't
character
do it.
in lit
I
RPGs who is
accepted
killed.
my death
Steven.
stoically.
Wait.
You're the character
No
who was killed
way.
in the lit RPG by
No
the protagonist,
way.
and everybody says it was justified.
In fact, I
Of
was the
course.
person who knew I wasn't going to make the zone entrance, and so I
Oh.
didn't want to die in a primary pathing location where I'm going to fuck over a bunch
Wait,
of other
I got
people.
lots of stories
so
on
I
that.
would go over to an obscure corner of the zone where I
Wow.
knew that I wasn't going to fuck
would-
over anybody
no.
else, and I would die there with
Nope.
some fucking honor and
Nope.
dignity.
Nope.
I'm Boromir. Okay,
Nope.
you're like Sauron. You're like the
Yes,
Dark
I am
Lord.
sorry.
Steven is just, I don't
yes.
have to run faster than the bear. I just
Right.
have to run
Run
faster than
you.
That's
you.
exactly right. That is me. Seth, who's in my game, who Seth is playing a fighter in my
In
Jewel.
your game with Kelsey, you threw the wizard to the zombies.
Yes, I threw him because I was literally, we're both on this platform and there's zombies, thousands of zombies attacking me. And I took my guy who was on the platform with me and I threw him off. So they go after him. And then his ghost, he went through the entire stages of grief in one session, because first he was angry with me, but by the end his ghost actually was helping me out. He had acceptance by the end. It was great. And once again I survived a game of Shadowdark without dying. By the way, so you talked about Timmy's, and so there's another one. It's called Bartle's Players Types. So this is for video games. This is very well known, and and this is specifically for MMOs. It works with any video games, but mostly MMOs because it has to have a social aspect. You have the achievers, and those are the people who want to get as many, especially in World of Warcraft, get as many achievements as possible. You have the explorers, and those are people who just like to see every part of the game, including the zones they can't get to, by the way. Those like the explorers. You have the socializers, and those are the people that lead the guilds and do all that. And then the last one you have is the killer. And I am not one of those, but the killers are actually, they're called griefers. That actually is the real term. So griefers are people who literally get excitement by destroying other people's enjoyment. And those people are also called psychopaths in real life.
I think that the if I recall correctly, the group of killers also included people who like PvP events,
Yes.
where they're not just murdering someone and taking their stuff, but it's just like a curated PvP thing, like Guild Wars or something like
well,
that
no
too.
one is one type. That's the thing. No one is one type. Everyone
I'm
has
just
a
saying that
little
the
bit
type
of
of
everything.
killer includes
Yes,
all
it
the
can.
ones who want to take their sort
Mhm.
of like combat or attacking action against
Mhm.
players.
What is fascinating?
Even to an extent, you could say that Derik's more of a killer than an achiever because he doesn't want to fight against like the world or the game or the computer-based
Mhm.
enemies. He'd rather go up against a real human as
Yeah.
an opponent. So that makes Derik more in the killer category than achiever in terms of his fighting.
Well, in Bartles, a killer is literally a griefer because if you look
Oh,
at the
fair enough.
percentages, it's about 80% socializer, 10%
Yeah.
explorer, 10% achiever, and like 0.01 is griefer.
So believe it or
Slash.
not,
But
so
this is why
in
it's
Magic,
important.
Well, in Magic the Gathering's player psychology profile,
Yeah.
a griefer is considered a Timmy
No, well, I believe it, but here's the thing.
because they're there for
Wait.
the feeling.
Okay,
Wait.
Steven, I
Wait,
thought
wait.
that this wasn't the case, so I looked it up. Bartle does split off killers into two subcategories.
That's newer. That's newer.
The
That's the new one.
subcategories, according to Bartle
Yes.
directly, the 4 part is easy to draw because it's 2D, but the 8 part one is 3D and it's harder
Correct.
to draw. So
Yeah.
it's often oversimplified. Griefers are the ones who want to get a big bad reputation, whereas
Right.
they call politicians the ones who want to get a big good
Correct.
reputation by defeating other players.
So why this is important and why we had to do this, and this is actually fascinating. So achievers are 10% of the game, and we're talking about MMOs. This is back when working on World of Warcraft and stuff. Explorers are 10%, socializers are 80%, griefers are 0.01%. However, the amount of time that was spent in the for the GMs, so the World of Warcraft GMs, and they had so many GMs that they ran out of people in the state of Texas. They ran out of people in the call centers because that's how many people they had as GMs. It was kind of mind-boggling. They had something like 20,000. Something like 95% of all their cases were from griefers, which is why they did everything in their power to try to get rid of them, because even though they make up such an incredibly small percentage of the games, they take up almost all of the calls and the problems in the game, that's now we're getting to super advanced game design, but it's actually a pretty fascinating aspect of that. This 0.001% of the game is actually responsible for all the problems, which brings me back to the beginning, which was this one image, which the achievers, the explorers, and the socializers probably had no problems with whatsoever.
But the killers,
the griefers, the 0.01%, they went insane and they caused all the drama and all the problems.
But just like you said with Warcraft, it doesn't take a lot of people if those small number of people are very angry to post a lot of things online.
Correct.
And the people who are upset, to be clear, I don't want to single out the killers on this one, even though it was them this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because on some other time, something will come up. Mm-hmm. And maybe the achievers or the socializers or some other subcategory of people, a small subset of them will be the ones who are really up in arms, and they'll get mad about that. So it's different who it's going to be each time. But a lot of people think of things as being zero sum. If anything, Stephen, your anecdote about MMOs indicates that the griefers are getting the griefer subsection of the killer quadrant are getting more resources put to them than their number of actual people deserves by a massive amount.
It was horrible. I would go to these GDC conferences. I would go, this is literally 25 years ago when MMOs were really like getting big. And we would go into these conferences to let me put it this way. At Blizzard, they have a hotline to the FBI. Okay. They talk to the Secret Service weekly. That's how bad these griefers were. It's not like, oh, these people are causing problems. No, these people are like stealing credit cards and doxing people and swatting people. Like, it was bad. Like, these people are not just like, I want to destroy your character. It's like, I want to destroy your character. I want to destroy your life. I want to destroy your family. I mean, these people are literally insane. And they would constantly be talking to law enforcement, and we would
feel
go
like at the point where they steal your credit card, they've moved into a different category because they're not just getting the feels about being mean to you, but possibly also your money.
Well, at that point they did it just to destroy you. They're not even trying to steal your money; they're just trying to destroy your life. And we would
can't be bullied or bribed with. They just want to say the word bad.
But they would but this was
my name is Michael.
We would be in these chats, and we do what was called roundtables, and we would go around to like talking with other developers of how they deal with it. It was pretty fascinating, actually. And I remember this one guy who was, oh my God. So we're in this like chat, and it was like all the developers from WoW and EverQuest, like all the main developers and like ArenaNet, and we're all sitting there talking about how this works. And then there's this guy who knew nothing about video games. And I mean nothing. I knew nothing. And he was there obviously because he was like learning for investment reasons or something. I guess he worked for like a fund. And he was asking, like, here we are in this like super advanced high level chat or like, round table talking about real problems. And he's just asking like the most basic questions of how MMOs work. And we're like, buddy, you're in the wrong place. You are. And he was taking up all of our time. He was griefing our session about griefing. It's like, dude, it's like, you're in the.
But is asking basic questions intentionally griefing though? Did he have like a smirk on?
No.
That's different than griefing, I think. It's just like, unfortunately, using up resources. If he had a smirk on his face and like a devilish grin as he forced people to answer it, that's different than legitimately just
speaking of griefing, I do have to wrap up.
Of course you do, because you have Racquetball. I don't believe you play racquetball. I want to see some video. I need to see.
So wait,
this
Steven,
video.
are you saying it's not real? Are you saying it's a racket?
I say it's a racket. I say he's racking our racquetball. It's a racket.
No, if only that were true. And that's the thing, right? This is my opportunity for, that spike to come out, right? I'm not, sure, I enjoy playing, but I like winning, and I want to be able to play hard and win.
Wow.
So,
now, when you play me?
it depends on the game.
Yeah, it's true. You're good at Magic. Magic, you definitely would beat the crap out of me.
I used to be, and even then, that's like compared to who, right? Compared to
Compared to me?
normal people. Compared to normal people, sure, but compared to the actual people are really good.
Oh yeah, well, you have to
there's
stay
always
up
a
on the
bigger
meta.
fish.
Yeah, that's true, especially in Magic.
Yeah, especially Magic. We've talked before about like me bringing like a GoPro and setting it up and recording the games just so it's just funny just to see like how badly my buddy beats me. It's really funny.
Oh yeah, right. That's right. We've talked about how he's so good.
Yeah, I win 15% of games, maybe.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you, it's like I was playing with my wife. So we play. I play tennis. I play a lot of tennis, but my wife plays every day. And I mean every day. I mean like 2 times a day, 3 times a day. That's all she does. She works too, but she plays. And I haven't played with her in a couple of years. And she actually was just in the championship. She was almost made it to the United States Championship, and this was the championship for the the tri-state area, like Northeast. And I was like, holy crap. And it was like a big thing. They came in second. If you came in first, then you would actually fly. Actually, it's happening now into Arizona, and then it would play, and then it was for USTA. And so I was like, wow. So she's gotten really good. I played with her the other day, and oh my God, she was like phenomenal. I was like, holy crap. I was like, oh, I don't remember you being quite this good. I guess playing every single day for the last 10 years has really upped your game quite a bit.
Just counts up. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Quite a bit. So, so just stick with it, Derik.
I've only been playing since I was, a freshman in college. So I've only been playing for 25 years, Yeah,
but you know what? I disagree because see, like I have been playing tennis my whole life. And then the funniest thing happened is that I went to the US Open and I was watching a match.
My buddy's just really good. Like my buddy, he's he's a scratch golfer. Like he's like, or he might even be like, he might even be like, like a -2, like a -1. He's
insanely good.
Yeah, so he's really good.
Well, not only that, okay, so by the way,
general.
I was about to say, so professional athletes is actually well known. Professional athletes, they're good at all sports. Like it doesn't matter, exactly. Right? It doesn't matter. Like if they're good at baseball, they will still beat you in basketball. They'll beat you in golf. They'll beat you in racquetball. They'll beat you in tennis. Doesn't matter. They are good at all sports.
Right. Turns out there's a lot of synergy.
Yes.
Like,
they might not be as
real
good.
Life, and we already know this. Real life is best modeled by 3rd edition D&D. And
there you go, Derek.
Get those synergy bonuses.
And so to sum it up, since you have to go for racquetball, for people who've been watching, I think that the one thing that all 3 of us agreed on, maybe the only thing that we all agreed on to answer this question in the video about why did it seem like D&D used to be so much more dangerous and what happened, is that more DMs were trying to kill you in the earlier editions.
Yeah. It was adversarial.
Now fewer of them are trying to kill you.
And I think
that is there are a lot of other factors that each of us have identified and that have had some agreement on, but all 3 of us agreed that that was a major factor of what happened.
Yep, I agree. And then also, I think that more players were playing D&D because they wanted that experience of you're trying to kill me, and I'm trying to prevent that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to blame the DMs for that, to be clear.
Correct.
They weren't delivering necessarily things that people were like, I don't want this. There were more DMs trying to do that, possibly because that was the social contract, and everyone at the table was like, yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah.
And now fewer DMs are because there's a wider variety of experiences people are going for.
Right. And then, so.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a deadly game of D&D.
Sure, and that doesn't mean there weren't ones that weren't deadly back in the day, right?
Right.
It's just and in fact, you could have been playing D&D all this time, right? 50 years, and not had anything deadly even since the beginning, or maybe it's gotten more deadly in your 5e group because you met a new group of players that is more into that kind of thing, right?
And for anybody who doesn't think that there weren't jokey, cutie, memey, silly things in D&D back in 1979, I encourage you to go look through the first edition AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide, and you will see a number of comics, of call-outs. They have an example of play in the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide. Do you know what the name of the fighter is? Gut Boy Barrel House. That's the name of the character. Gut Boy Barrel House.
100%.
I don't see the issue.
I think it's a great name.
Yeah, there's no problem with that name. Derik is just trying to explain that there were silly things all the way back then. It was not the most serious game at any point in time.
It was not.
It was not.
It was not.
And I would be on, and I know there's some GMs who are like, oh, it's ruining I had this vision, and I'm like, if someone shows up to my game and they name their character Gut Boy Barrel House, I'm like, we are going to get along just fine.
Everyone take notes next time you play with Derik.
Right. And then everyone clapped. For example, it started off as a joke and then we fully embraced it. Your name, Stephen, when we played Avatar was the Budgetar.
Yeah,
it
was.
was.
And it wasn't like a tongue-in-cheek name that we, the players, referred to. No, like that was his name in the game world. Like it was like, yes.
Oh wait, I didn't know that. I thought that you just Stephen just called the role of the person who's not quite the Avatar, the Budgetar.
No, we fully leaned into it, and he was like the off-brand, but he was the off-brand Avatar while the Avatar was still like in the reincarnation cycle and hadn't been like was still basically a baby. He had to,
I can only do one element. I was the Budgetar.
Yeah, it's like the third string goalie that works a day.
Definitely. Third string. I was like the caller from the double A.
Right. And again, going back to a lot of things, everyone's like, oh, Tensor is Ernest backwards. Okay.
Yeah.
Drawmidge.
Melf is like a male elf, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Drawmidge is Jim Ward backwards. Like they literally just took their real life names and made them backwards and called that a game.
And if you think that anything has changed since then Gosrad, the wind and the waves deity in Pathfinder's Golarion, is Werner Herzog's last name spelled backwards.
Rob Kuntz's character's name was Robilar.
Yes.
I mean, it's like,
and now their mythic history. Isn't how everything starts off? It starts off as a total goof, and then now it's like, oh, Tensor, the magical, like level 20 wizard who's God, and it was like, oh, I'm just some goofy guy,
right? They were just, there's a story. Gary Gygax wrote a story in Dragon Magazine about something about Tensor and whatever, wanted to like explore the moon.
And he has clones on the moon.
And because he had all this thing, so he found this sage and he invested like millions of gold pieces. And then when he finally showed up, the sage had built a gigantic catapult. And his character got catapulted to the moon.
Really? That's how he got his clones up there? Damn.
I only know that particular story. But like, yeah.
The point is that when Steven's friend back in the day made a character named Tordok, who was a doctor, that was just Tordok was doctor
he was
with the syllables backwards.
That was Bob.
What?
That was right, because we needed a cleric, so he named
so he made one named Tordok. He was in good company. He was following the tradition of all of these
and
names.
We never figured it out till he told us. He goes, it's just doctor backwards. And we're like, oh.
My buddy Smith, his most famous dwarf, one of his most famous characters of all time was a dwarf fighter named Fraud Ehut.
What was that? Fraud what?
I put it in chat. His name was Fraud Ehut.
Fraud Et, the dwarf spelled backwards.
The dwarf spelled backwards.
Oh.
And then his other character was a multi-class fighter cleric, and his name was. Oh, I'll spell it a little wrong, but it was Rethgif Karelik, which was cleric fighter.
Yeah, I can tell. I can totally see it. It's like, what's your name? Cleric fighter? Because names are hard, man. Names are hard.
But look, he was a dwarf fighter cleric. Rethgif. That was a great dwarf name. Everyone called him Reth.
Yeah, Red Rum.
Yeah, I mean, it's my point is, it's
Red
just
Griff.
the game was always kind of silly. So, and
The
again,
game's
like
always been silly.
people are like, it's so grimdark. Is that why the game had color spray? You know, is that why the game had prismatic wall? Is that why the game had, it was
I think some people's games were grimdark,
Sure.
and some people like that was what their game was, because even back then D&D was wider than just a very narrow thing. But the game itself contains multitudes. It has so many different types of stories it could tell at all times. And that silliness, that whimsy has always been there, even back in the old school days.
Yeah.
Old school, I feel, is more about, in old school game design, is more about the idea of challenging the players over their characters
100%.
than it is about anything such as grimdark versus whimsy. The random whimsical tables were more common in some of those older versions.
Yeah, I hard agree there. So good place to end it.
All right. So we're ending it there, everyone. Until next time, if you want to battle the zoo, you have to roll for combat.
Yeah.
And you might die.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're playing Eldamon and you're a life Eldamon, in which case, my God, you're going to have a great time.
Or
All
if
right,
you're playing
take
a
care,
Delph
everyone.
Eldamon,
See you
then you'll
next
die a
time.
horrible, horrible death.
There are a lot of mysteries in life. Who ate all my snacks? Why are women not impressed by my juggling? And what's a unique ancestry that I can bring to my next TTRPG game night? The answer to those questions are, I ate my snacks. They are impressed, but you should have a wide variety of hobbies and interests. And you can find unique ancestries with Battlezoo and their Year of Mysteries. Every month in 2026, Battlezoo delivers a fresh, bizarre, and lovingly unhinged ancestry straight to your inbox. Get ready to spice up your D&D or Pathfinder game faster than a wizard's bad life choices. Why settle for elves again when you can play as 13 unique and bizarre ancestries, such as a grumpy Sasquatch, a sea serpent with anger issues, or a dinosaur person, a guy ceratops, a girlociraptor, a human Saurus rex. You don't have to use any of these names, but you do get to play as a dinosaur with a great sword, and that seems awesome.
But Jack, this is the Year of Mysteries, so let's get mysterious. With each new ancestry, every month you'll also find a puzzle. Solve each and input the solution at Battlezoo.com to slowly reveal the year-long secret and become a seeker of mysteries. There's a leaderboard for puzzle solvers, and if you solve all 12, you'll earn a free prize as you unlock the final truth, as well as one last secret you can add to your games. What could it be? The color of my underpants?
Mine have pictures of fish on them. Head on over to yearofmysteries.com and start uncovering the clues today. I can juggle for a long time.